Stars blazing so bright, calling the fight from vigilance. We stand from dawn to twilight. The empires rise and conquer. In the wild face of danger, carry on to the victory. You better take a deep breath. Each dawn it brings a bitter fight. Another chill may run down your spine. Fear looks beyond the edge of sight. Carry on to the glory, to the great victory. Never give up till you die. Never give up in this life. For every word that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind. Hold your weapons, strive and fight. For every kingdom that falls and rise, it's time to become legendary. Chaos, sharpen your knife. Make way to find your destiny. Worship a man or a shrine. Can both recall a scattered. In the wild town of wardrobes, tearing down all the enemies. You better capture the arcs. The carriers may bug you down. Set up for the truth is right. Sneaky Texas work as a best alive. Carry on to the glory, to the great victory. Never give up till you die. Never give up in this life. For every word that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind. Hold your weapons, strive and fight. For every kingdom that falls and rise, it's time to become legendary. Across the ancient lands, stories will be told. How you struggle, how you try to define the world. With a sacred name, you are the one chosen to start up the storm. Never give up till you die. Never give up in this life. For every word that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind. Hold your weapons, strive and fight. For every kingdom that falls and rise, it's time to become legendary.
Hello, governors. Welcome to the 2024 Grand Prix Upper Bracket Round 2. I'm your host, Plauto Gaming caster and content creator for Rise of Kingdoms. And today alongside me is our fellow caster, Brian Koo. Glad to be back here with you, man.
Plauto, good to be here. Looking forward to the matches.
Yes, sir. It should be some fun today. The Grand Prix is the pinnacle of competitive Osiris League, where the best of the best teams from both the international servers and the Chinese servers get to compete to prove themselves as the best Osiris League teams in the world. Today, we are casting the upper bracket, the second round of the upper bracket, meaning that these teams have won their matchups last week and are facing against other winners. The first matchup of the day is 21YL versus 261K, a matchup of two Chinese powerhouses. 21YL has made it to the Grand Prix through the qualifier stage and are looking to continue their hot streak as they've won their last match versus the Realm of Sobek champions 63S. However, another Realm champion stands in their path as 261K are the reigning Realm of Anubis champions and are going to bring their unconventional strategies to this next stage of the Grand Prix. Will 21YL continue knocking out last season's Realm champions, or will 261K take their strategies to the next level? Brian Koo, what do you think of this matchup?
You know, Plauto, you broke it down very well as far as the resume of these two teams. Last week, I did cast 21YL play against another Chinese server Realm champion in 63S. 63S won the Realm of Sobek in the recent Osiris League season. They're now going up against the Realm of Anubis champion. And the question is 261K a step up from the Sobek champions? Because, quite frankly, 21YL was quite in control of that match last week. it's tough for me to say that 261K is a better team than the Sobek champs because it was actually the Sobek team that finished second in the Grand Prix last season. Now, you have to figure out which team played the reigning champions in the semifinals of that Grand Prix, or that Osiris League Grand Prix, to figure out if 261K is better. But I'm not really seeing that, Plato. You cast them last week. I watched some of that match. To me, 261K got a little bit lucky in their match against 466, another Chinese team. They master strategied the second arc when the escort was pretty light. One could even argue that they shouldn't have won the first arc because the other team only cast 6 points of skills. It's tough for me to give the edge to 261K in this match. However, on the Chinese server and on the international server, both communities are betting on 261K to be the winner here. They're actually a heavy favorite in this match. So does the wisdom of the crowd know something I don't? That will remain to be seen.
I think 261K, after their match last week, their performance last week, really gained a lot of fans from both international and Chinese servers. Just those unconventional strategies that we were referring to, the master strategies to steal the arc, the sneaky tactics to do whatever they needed to do. It was just something to watch, as you don't really see those type of plays in Grand Prix, because Grand Prix is the highest of the highest stakes, the highest of the competition. Just being able to see these iterations and those skills you used to such a degree, perhaps that's why the bets are kind of skewed. But as you were saying, 261K last week, they had a lot of things go right for them and a lot of things go their way to win that match. So will 21YL be able to kind of shore up the mistakes that the previous Osiris League winners, 63S, or rather whoever 261K versed,
466, yeah, W.
466W, right? Whoever, will they be able to shore up the mistakes that 466W made last week, or will they be able to win through that conventional style? We'll have to see. It'll be really interesting to see how these two teams stack up. And you were talking about how 261K rather, did not, they were the semifinalist in the grand finals of the Chinese server this past season, and how they'll stack up with how they'll stack up against 21YL, who versed 63S, who made it to the finals. It'll be so interesting to see kind of the powerhouses between these different realms in the Chinese servers, and we'll see who will make it through, because the Chinese server so far has been killing it, Brian Koo.
Yeah, they've been playing very well. Definitely bringing a different type of strategy. And what we're going to see from 21YL today is one of the more unique strategies that we have seen in this Grand Prix. They are a very economy-focused team. They use energetic and stocking up to boost their energy point production. And they play kind of a defensive game on the sides. They use stocking up to have more points mid. Then they go very, very heavy mid. And so it's the kind of control game we see from some international teams, some very sophisticated international teams. But they've added that wrinkle of using stocking up very early in the match and throughout the match. And you know what? It worked very well last week against the realm of Sobek winners from the Chinese server. And unless 261K is at a different level than the opponent last week, I think it's going to work again here.
Yeah. I mean, the match has started, so let us go into the game here.
Yep, both teams beat you in there, Plato. They are both fully teleported in and ready to go, although we do still have 90 seconds to talk this one up.
21YL in the top left corner versus 261K in the bottom right. A matchup of champions versus qualifiers, although 21YL have already beat one of the champions, so it's going to be super interesting to see these two Chinese team powerhouses clash. Brian, you said that 21YL is favored for you. I'm going to go ahead and bet on 261K.
All right.
We'll see how these teams clash, because 261K last match, they were so entertaining. I would love to see how they approach the game today. Do you expect anything out of the ordinary from these two teams to begin the game, Brian?
I think that at some point in the match, 261 is going to have to disrupt what 21YL, the blue team, does. They may try to disrupt it early on. Maybe that first arc, they might want to just try to make this a 2-arc game, actually. You know what? The thing is, they know what to expect from 21YL. They really do. And so they have to have disruption on their mind. I don't know if it's going to happen early on in the match or not. I think we're going to probably not see energetic from 21YL right off the bat.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, the double economy skills that you were referring to earlier, perhaps, going to use the stocking up skill as we see the double C's starts running to the obelisks here. Initial rallies, we see 3 rallies coming up from 21YL, 2 rallies coming up from 261K. Pretty interesting here. Of course, the rallies here being the defensive rallies. I wonder which obelisk 21YL is rallying of their opponents. Looks like the bottom side obelisk. So instead of 8 obelisk rallies, we're seeing 5, which is interesting for these two teams.
Yeah, and actually the red team is actually rallying the top side obelisk. So they're rallying the identical obelisks, but on different sides of the map. The map, of course, is, how would you describe it? It's
mirrored. It's mirrored.
It's mirrored. Okay, it's a mirrored map where the top side is the same as the bottom side, but in reverse directions. Not too many sentries being placed so far. Only 1 sentry down for the red team, 2 for the blue. There's another one. Interesting that some of these shot callers are, in my opinion, a little bit slow on the sentries, but
very interesting sentry positions as well, right? For 261K, you see a sentry in the middle here of their side, so perhaps trying to scout out a sentry from 21YL. 21YL doing the offensive sentries here, where they have a sentry in front of their own desert altar. They have a sentry in front of their opponent's desert altar. They have a sentry in front of their opponent's spawn. So just trying to see how much desert altar presence 261K is putting up. But I will say, Brian, look at the amount of marches walking to the top side of the map for 261K. They are overloading this top side with marches right now.
Yeah, really interesting. I've mostly watched standard starts in the Grand Prix. This is going to be the most non-standard start here. The heavy overload onto the desert altar. Also interesting, they have like a small group hugging the mountain, and then they have like the mass of troops. I think they're probably going for an obelisk play here, actually.
Wow, wait.
Sneaky tactics now being cast. Yeah, sneaky tactics cast on that little group of cavalry that you can see is very well speed tuned here. I don't think that blue team spotted that out. I don't think they spotted out those marches that were hugging the inside wall. Are they reacting to it now? They kind of know. They kind of know, though, right? Like, blue team know. Like, it's just got to be this, right? It's got to be this. They're seeing the massive marches. So there's going to be a massive, massive fight at this blue team obelisk. I mean, like, half the marches in the game are going to this obelisk.
This is what I got. This is what I think. They put the sentries down. They overloaded the sentries on this top side of the map, on their side of the map, so that their opponents couldn't see the marches hugging that wall. Now they have a ton of marches walking around this obelisk here, trying to deny some teleport spots, perhaps even trying to capture this obelisk. And now they have an overwhelming number of marches going towards the Desert Altar of 21YL. So the marches, half of the marches of 21YL went over to their home obelisk to play defensively. Now the remaining marches of 21YL that stayed at the Desert Altar are just going to be absolutely overrun because half of the marches went to the obelisk. So you will see a stream of sad faces coming up from this blue team. And now the rally for this topside obelisk is coming through for 261K.
You know, I think they're just blocking teleports. I mean, the rally's going to hit. Maybe they take the obelisk, but the main thing that these marches are doing is blocking teleports. Because if they wanted to swarm this thing, they would have already swarmed it. You know, it's already locked in. You know, they already have blue team has their teleports.
I think 261K are trying to wait for this rally to hit. Then they're going to reinforce with the sneaky tactics march. Oh my goodness, this is...
Well, but they can't move these marches. They have to keep these marches in place to block the teleport.
I think 21YL don't see the marches, right? So they're just randomly trying to click into... to teleport these cities in. Now the swarm is coming in from the Desert Altar. Desert Altar was retaken for 21YL though. And in the meanwhile, if you look at the rest of the map, it is primarily blue. So this play has to work out for 261K for them to make a dent into this match. And you can see 21YL is just trying to hold this obelisk as the swarm comes.
I mean, it just ultimately was a teleport block. You know, like if they wanted to swarm this thing down, all these marches probably would have moved. They're starting to, you know, swarm it and attack this obelisk, but you have to essentially you have to block the teleports and steal the obelisks, because the moment that a teleport spot opens up, 21YL is going to take that spot. So it's a tricky little dance that they're playing here. They probably need to break off more of these marches. It's just very tough because once you break off a march to swarm this obelisk, that teleport spot is going to get taken. So
this is a huge hold from 21YL. This is absolutely huge. They were outnumbered, Brian, and the fact
they were
they're able to hold this Eleanor MVP of the match so far. My goodness.
Yeah, I think 261K before the match started didn't expect this level of defense at the obelisk. 21YL kind of sniffed it out. They brought enough marches to deal with the obelisk swarm. But I almost wonder if 261K should have called an audible and just had everyone swarm the building, clear out the defenders before the rally got there, and like just actually try to flip the obelisk. They probably were going to be too late to do it, honestly, but this didn't really work. You know, this really just did not really work.
I mean, 21YL were completely prepared for this to happen. You can see they're starting to swarm down the obelisk now, but it's going to be so hard for them to swarm it down with a 464 million power city that could just insta reinforce the obelisk right next to it. So all the shenanigans in the early game looked really, really fun on paper, but 21YL were completely prepared for this strategy somehow. And now if we look at the rest of the map, the whole bottom side of the map is blue. Most of the top side of the map is red, so pretty much flipping the map in half.
Yeah, and on the bottom side, they're trying to get back their Desert Altar. It looks like they're going to be just a little bit short. It's 10 seconds before this thing locks for 21YL, and they get that first capture on the enemy Desert Altar. And so if they had another 30 seconds, they could have swarmed this thing down, but the timing was enough. The timing was enough for Blue to get a bunch of these first captures.
And you can see that reflected on the scoreboard. 3.8k to 900k so far. I mean 900 so far. That is with the Desert Altar. That is about to flip. So they traded Desert Altar. Is the only
they traded deserts.
Yeah, the only structure really that didn't get first occupation points for 261k is going to be that Shrine of Life.
The Shrine of Life. Yeah.
So that's going to be 400
not too bad.
points in 21YL's favor. But yeah, as you said, it's not too bad for 261k. they are behind in tempo because of the play that they tried to pull off. It almost worked, but 21YL were just completely prepared for it. And then, oh, apparently someone's trying to join an alliance, and my mailbox is awkward. Anyways, as we continue on with this match, we see that people are going to start rotating mid. It is 3 minutes until mid. I will say, Brian, that these matches, especially with the Chinese server, I feel like they rotate to mid a lot later than the international servers, where they continue pressure structures until 4 minutes, 3 minutes, and then start rotating mid when there's about 2 to 1 minute left until this arc spawns.
Yeah, I think they're definitely putting in more work on the sides just before the arc. It's partly a late rotation, Plato, but what I'm also seeing is a lot of these Chinese teams are comfortable not sending everybody mid. You know, you see some of these Grand Prix matches where like neither team does a full mid allocation. We are seeing a pretty heavy mid here, although even this, with 2 minutes to go before the arc, you see on the red team that there's a lot of action on the top side. They've got another group hugging that wall near the mountain range. So
a sneaky tactics, by the way, from
and they're using sneaky
21YL.
tactics. Yeah, from 21YL actually.
Yeah, and the middle murder ball that they got going on there.
Yeah, they're just chilling at the temple, making it hard for 261K to not see what they have at mid. They kind of wasted their advantage of extra skills. Well, I think they must have had very good success with stocking up to cast sneaky tactics here, where they want to use a more than full bar. Although it's impossible for them to have a more than full bar, because actually both teams cast dust up during that initial fighting at the obelisk too. So pretty interesting use of sneaky tactics there. Questionable use of sneaky tactics there.
I wonder if it's to throw off the opponents of 261K, because the thing is, when sneaky tactics is played, you just always second guess if there's going to be a march next to you, or where the sneaky tactics play is going to go. Are they going to go towards the desert altar, which they actually flipped? An impressive flip from 21YL. Like, where it is the sneaky tactics going is probably in the back of the minds of 261K members. It looks like 21YL with sneaky tactics, though, they will probably go towards this building focus. As you can see, they already flipped one of the desert altars. Desert altar was flipped in return from 261K. And then the mid fight is starting to progress here with the sneaky tactics marches. So it's a sneaky tactics to hide their presence mid, but then continue towards this mid fight. Perhaps the sneaky tactics marches, Brian, were placed there so that 261K would have a false sense of security of how many marches were actually mid going into this mid fight, and now they're getting absolutely destroyed by 21YL's murder ball.
Yeah, this is a repeat of what we saw from 261K last week, where they let the other team get a very clean arc grab. Oh, although, you know, I guess they did a nice job of stealing, you know, like grabbing the first arc. But, you know, another clean arc grab for 21YL here. In this case, I don't think 261K is going to be able to flip the table like they did last week. They just don't have the presence. They lost the mid fight. An awkward, you know, just a slow mid approach by the red team. They didn't have the numbers. And this is one thing we did see from 21YL last week. If they don't need to use all their skills mid, then they will hold them. They will hold the skills. They will do a fast arc return, and then just like, they don't have to use the stocking up advantage on the very first arc. They're comfortable having a points advantage on every single arc, and then eventually on the second or third arc, they'll go for a really big burst, where last week we saw them use something like 15 points on that third arc.
Wow. And can you explain what stocking up is for those that don't know? Like, what is stocking up, and why is it such a big skill for 21YL rather?
Yeah, so stocking up is active for roughly 10 minutes. And what happens is that when gatherers return provisions, it will give you 0.1% of an energy bar for every 3 provisions you bring home. So if a gatherer finishes gathering a level 3 node, I believe that's 100 resources. That's going to give you 33% of an energy of your energy bar. You can get up to 1,500 points. That I'm gonna be. I guess it's 3.3% for a for 100 for 100 provisions. So if you get like 4 gatherers bringing home 150 gathering points each, that becomes like an extra skill that you can cast mid. You can get up to 1,500 provisions, which is going to be 50% of an energy bar or 5 additional points. You just have to turn those resources in after you cast some of your skills. That then refreshes your energy bar instantaneously, and then you can cast more than 10 points of skills for a mid fight.
Yeah, so essentially it allows you to overstack energy to exceed more than the 10 points that most teams would use. The arc, by the way, let's do an arc check. It is in 21YL's control, right next to the obelisk. They're swapping out the arc carrier, but it should be all good. And that early play was a home run by 261K. They were trying to make a game-winning, game-altering play on that obelisk. Now, because that play failed, it is looking really rough for them. They are down in points. They're down by 2.1k. Their opponents have control of the arc, which is another 3k. So they're essentially down by 5.1k points right now. Brian, what do you think 261k can do to come back into this match?
Well, they're going to have to be effective on the buildings, and that was pretty much their strategy coming in. They knew that 21YL is going to do a lot of gathering. They knew that 21YL would have extra points mid. And so if you're the red team, you have to do well on the... And they knew that 21YL was going to play defense on the sides. They're a defense first team on the sides. So 261k has to just get into a rhythm here where they are able to score more points on the side than 21YL is going to score. And that really was their win condition from the beginning. I mean, maybe they do something crazy like they did and flip the whole thing. But on a basic level, their win condition has always been be more effective on the sides than this defensive first team. And so that's what they have to do at this point. Not looking great at the moment. They're actually on the back foot in all these lanes right now. So, they need to turn this thing around. And that 21YL is gathering, so you do have the numbers to turn this thing around if you can be effective.
It's such a tough situation. You said 21YL is a defensive first team. They've been flipping these altars back and forth. The Sky altar has flipped for 21YL in that top side. This desert altar feels like there's been a relentless siege from 21YL. Ever since that first play, 261k has been behind in pressure, behind in tempo, behind in timing. The arc was captured though, showing the true lead at about 5.2k point differential right now. What do you think 261k should do for this next arc fight here? This next arc spawn rather.
Well, they don't really have a points disadvantage. I think it's pretty interesting that 21YL returned that arc because neither team cast a lot of skills mid, so the points advantage is not that big for blue. Plato, I think the issue for 261k is that we suspect that because of last week, they probably have master strategy on the bar, and that doesn't give you a whole lot of mid skills. They did not have Bog Down or Heaven's Grace on their bar last week, so they don't have a natural counter to the death, and they don't have an extra mid skill either. So it's going to have to be just a straight up mid fight that they outplay 21YL in. they're probably going to be short, like maybe 1 or 2 points mid because of stocking up. It's tough. You asked me for answers. I actually just gave you more problems for 26-1K, but that's the situation.
And that's the risk that you play with playing such an unconventional style, taking unconventional skills, is when you go for a conventional mid fight, you're going to be put behind because you don't have the same tools that your opponents do for a mid fight. You know, the to the deaths, the bog down, the heaven's grace, the total visions, whatever skills you want to use mid. Usually your skill bar will be replaced with the sneaky tactics, the master strategists, and that's part of the lottery. That's part of the gamble that you take when playing this style, and your opponents were just completely ready for it. 21YL have to have read the scouting report on 261K. The way that they responded to that, just running straight to their obelisk, I think if they didn't do that, the obelisk would have been captured and that would have been the game for them.
That is a good point. That's a very good point. You know, there's different ways to capture this obelisk. We saw that one being done in a different way than we've seen on the international server, where they were kind of like slow to get to the obelisk. They didn't like immediately go to the obelisk. They waited. Yeah, you know, I mean, 261K went for the home run play. It did not work. It's worth noting that 261K actually out provisioned the blue team last week. They had just under 5,000 gathering points for 261K last week. And so, listen, if they can win the second arc, if they can have an edge, and they have more gatherers out there right now. They actually have about 5 or 6 gatherers out. So 261K can potentially win the second mid, win the gathering game, and those two things together can, you know, tie this match up. The structures are pretty even right now.
It looks like a pretty stable game state from both sides. Outside of the Shrine of Life that is not providing points for 261K, everything else, Shrine of War actually, in inverse for 21YL. So it's pretty much an even game state here. 5-10 points per minute to 4-60 points per minute. I think it'll come down to mid fight, but as to what we were talking about earlier, that should be in 21YL's favor.
It should be, and you're seeing now that 21YL, again, they're like a pretty conventional defensive first type of team. They're going to mid early. They're going to go heavy mid. And on the other hand, what we're seeing from 261K is that they're on the offense in a few lanes going into this mid fight. And they're gonna probably just get to mid late. Maybe they can flip a building. It doesn't really look like any of these efforts are gonna flip a building. And yeah, 261K is just trying to do a lot of stuff, right? They're trying to like do some late attacks, but then still get to mid on time. And you see just the much more simple strategy from 21YL, which is like play defense, go to mid in numbers, have extra skill points mid. You know, these 261K, they're just trying to fly a little bit too close to the sun here, and it has not worked so far.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing their best, but with that full all-in that top side of the map and only trading those altars, only trading, not even the shrines, you know, just being in the back foot. They needed to win this arc, though. This is a must-win arc for 261K for them to have a chance to come back into this game. 34 minutes left, second arc about to spawn in 2 minutes 30 seconds. This is going to be close. This is going to be a close one.
Yeah, and you know, it looks to me like there's a very heavy send from red team as well. If anything, the send is a little bit more full from the red team. Like you can see the blue teams on the blue marches on the bottom side that aren't going to get to mid. So the numbers game is probably going to be like very close to even for this fight. The only question is, can red team get there in time? Like They have so many marches coming late. I mean, they have marches that are still
do they
far
have
away.
the skills? Do they have the skills also to win this mid fight? As you said, we have stocking up for 21YL, so we should see some of these provisioners start to walk back home, and with their skill bar, they should hypothetically, with the economy route they went with energetic and stocking up, they should have more points for this mid fight than their counterparts here in 261K. 1 minute until arc spawns, man. This is gonna be a game deciding arc fights. Who do you have winning this arc fight, Brian?
I've got to give it to blue team 21YL. I saw some gatherers walking out of their cities, so they must have already done the return. They've already cast dust up. I think what we have right now is that 21YL has a full bar of 10 points, whereas 261K probably has like 9 points because they've already cast dust up. So they might not have 10 points to cast like to the death plus a 4-point skill. Probably total vision. We see these Chinese teams preferring total vision in many cases.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be like 10 points against 9 points here, and the blue team has the position advantage at the temple.
Look how close these murdables are. There you
they're
go.
waiting
to
so
the death.
long.
To the death used by both teams here. Heaven's Grace by both teams as well. Very interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, switching it up from last week. Neither team had Heaven's Grace on the bar last week.
So you don't really see To the Death Heaven's Grace that often. They kind of have counter synergy, right? Because the 30 marches that have To the Death do not heal, so they do not get affected by Heaven's Grace. But perhaps because it's the full send from both teams, they thought Heaven's Grace was worth it. They're like, hey,
It's also all they had, right?
Yeah, that's true. So using all the skills here in this middle fight, there is a clean pull, by the way, for 21YL with this arc. This arc carrier is going so far, and even though it does look like 261K won the mid fight, 21YL with this pull is actually, you know, they could perhaps reinforce this if they come back in time, but it looks like this mid fight was absolutely dominant from 261K. Absolutely huge for them, and they should have
really
control
big
of this arc. They should have control of this arc, which, you know, 21YL, that hero arc carrier was not enough. That Belisarius was not enough to get full control, but it will delay the arc capture or the arc secure from 261K rather. And you could see in the bottom side of the map, those marches that were in the outer lane were able to take the Desert Altar. They have taken the obelisk that they could actually teleport to, by the way, but have chosen not to. So,
and they're going for the ambush. I mean, so there's a very, like, 21YL has a very big decision to make right now, which is like, do you try to ambush this arc or not? Do you try to ambush the arc or do you just take the sides? And they are choosing to ambush this arc. They're just chasing after the arc. The arc carrier moves slower than other marches. This Huo is trying to move as fast as they can, but you can see that the blue team is catching up to them. Boy, they could have gone for the sides, but they are going to try to ambush instead. And this is kind of risky when you have like a 7K point lead. You don't necessarily need to ambush this obelisk or this arc carrier.
I will say the horse of Huo Bing, when carrying the arc, looks like a corgi, just stumbling through slowly towards their side of the map, trying to make their way back. We were talking about 21YL have options. Perhaps they saw that we already took the Desert Altar, that we don't need to send more marches to hold it. They probably have tempo advantage on the Desert Altar regardless. They had full vision of the rotation out of mid with the sentry that they placed. So perhaps seeing an opportunity here, the arc carrier was dropped, and there are a lot of blue marches around here. Full movement speed with the Ethelfled primaries out in the open field, full cavalry marches as well. This arc is not secure at all. There's so many blue marches, and the list looks like mid 2.0, Brian.
Yeah, we're going to run this whole thing back. Everyone's going to do a full resend to mid. The resend by 21YL absolutely worked. They have the numbers advantage mid right now. The arc, though, is on the red team side of the map, so with the kind of arc fight we're looking at here, that's going to be like a very long one, 2.0, like you said, having the arc on your side is definitely a big advantage. But it depends on the carriers. It depends on the carriers, because you have to kill the carrier. You cannot just win the fight. Whoever gets the pull is then going to, you know, force the enemy to run through the gauntlet to catch up to them. I wonder if blue team can maybe neutralize this thing, get it back to its original state. Boy, you know, a good ambush. Good ambush.
Yeah, 21YL just absolutely toying with 261K right now. Just the double C, 1 HP, just sprinting out of there. Run, double C, run!
Right there. That's a huge run.
They have brought it to the middle, and they have numbers, so what looked like a secure arc for 261K might actually be stolen by 21YL, and 21YL with a game deciding play here, because Brian, if they hold this arc, they could shut the door on a 261K comeback.
That is a very good point. I think you do need to hold this arc if you can get it. 261K again. They tried to fly too close to the sun. They took back that desert altar. We saw all those marches going to their own desert altar that could have potentially stayed middle. Just the full send right back to mid. Wow.
Last week we saw 261K steal an arc with Master Strategies.
This is a good time to use it. This would be a good time to use Master Strategy. Do they have enough points?
This week, 21YL stole 261K's arc without Master Strategies. And that's the real question. Do they have enough points for a Master Strategies? I think their plan was probably to get this arc and then next arc perhaps do some play with Master Strategies, but they miscalculated how 21YL. They thought 21YL would just, you know, lie down and say, "Oh, we lost the arc fight. We're just gonna go structures." But no, instead they made the call to go middle, steal the arc, and now this arc is so deep into blue territory. Outside of these 3 marches from 261K, it should be uncontested unless Master Strategies has anything to say about it.
Yeah, I think, you know, they had an empty skill bar mid after winning that fight. They used Heaven's Grace plus 2 the death. It does take a significant amount of time to get up to 6 points. It was a long shot that they would have enough points. And 21YL just, yeah, great pullback by 21YL. They even broke their stocking up rhythm. They have been casting stocking up whenever it's off cooldown. They're not casting stocking up off cooldown this time. It's been more than 10 minutes. And they just focused on getting this arc. They use sneaky tactics for the attack boost. And it's looking like a very secure arc at this point.
And meanwhile, they were also able to flip the desert altar of 261K in this bottom side. So it's been a horror for 261K. Their chances of coming back into this match looking dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. We have to keep in mind, though, this is the winner's bracket. So even if you lose this match, you will make it to the second round of the loser's bracket to verse one of the winners of tomorrow's matches. Tomorrow will be the loser's bracket, where we will see all of the teams that lost last week face off for the tournament lives. I think the match of that set of matches will be 489 versus 60GT. The Grand Prix finals in the first round of the losers bracket. But it's not the end all be all for 261K, even if they lose this match. Which it does look quite likely with the arc being firmly in 21YL's control, with the lead being firmly in 21YL's control as well. I mean, if you're 261K at this point in the match, you're down by so much. What do you do? Do you start preparing and perhaps trying to use this as a scrim to hold your structures and Like, what do you take away from the rest of the 23 minutes here? If you're 22-6-1.
Look, I think you can take some good things from this. They won that mid fight very cleanly. They had no real advantage in that mid fight. They had fewer skills, or they had the same skills. They had positional disadvantage, but they still won overwhelmingly in that mid fight. That tells me that 261K is a very good fighting team, and the fact that they also were the betting favorite by a heavy amount on the Chinese server suggests that they're probably a very good KVK kingdom as well. So they probably have some very, very good players on 261K who really are like quite good at fighting in the mid game. And that is that Plato might be enough to win this entire Grand Prix, right? If you're like the best fighting mid team, then you can just keep everything else equal and win the mid fights and like win this entire tournament. So, you know, they tried to do so many things in this match. They went for home runs. They went for late mid approaches. They broke off their escort from mid. They did a bunch of things to try to keep up with 21YL, but they might be just a better fighting team than 21YL. And, you know, that's something that you can certainly take away and use in future matches. But I have to say, I feels like the 261K style is to do a lot, because even in the match that you cast last week, you know, they barely showed up for the second arc fight because they were doing so much building game, and then they had to like master strategy the arc to bail themselves out. So it almost seems like this is their style, is to just try to do a ton of stuff.
Last week, we saw this unconventional style pay off. This week, we're seeing a team that was ready for that unconventional style. A team that had the game plan essentially in their heads. They saw, as soon as they saw that sneaky tactics, they started running towards their home obelisk. And I think that just shows the duality of unconventional play in Arc of Osiris, where if you are a team that goes for a home run play, and it does work out, it looks really cool, the highlights look really great, you win the game, everyone's happy last week. But if you don't make that play, if you don't win that play, if the play doesn't work out, which it didn't today, you're just in the back, you're just behind the rest of the match, which is that exactly what has been happening with 261Ks thus far in this match.
Yeah, and you know, for 21YL, to me, it shows the value of conventional play. And in this Arc of Osiris, in this Grand Prix format where everyone has all the commanders, tons of troops, really good equipment, there's enough diversity in the conventional strategies that, to me, when I see very strange home run style play, I just see teams that aren't quite as good as these conventional teams. Because, listen, 21YL is using stocking up. They are not casting energetic off the start. They're returning some arcs very quickly. They're doing a bunch of stuff that other teams don't do. But it's all part of a picture that actually makes sense. I mean, even with that initial arc capture, or the initial arc attack by 261K, it's not like 21YL completely sniffed that out. They just suspected it might be the case, and they sent eight or so marches back to the obelisk. Those 8 or so marches made the difference. The rest of their marches stayed at the desert altar and got wiped out, actually. But they were just like, okay, listen, they might attack our obelisk. We have to send some marches there. Let's not try to hit a home run and like predict they're not going to attack this obelisk. No, let's hit a single. Let's send a few marches there to defend if need be. And that's what saved the game, was that single, that play call to just hit a single, hit a sacrifice fly, and defend your obelisk.
Yeah, and I think their sentry placement in the bottom side really helped, where they saw that there was a lack of marches coming to this bottom side desert altar. They're like, hey, we'll just trade altars, but let's just hold this obelisk. And that's what one of the best Chinese teams does. The 21YL is seen as a very, very good Chinese team.
Yeah,
So
top three team in China.
so if you keep that in mind, the different strategies that they pulled off, the call to go back to their obelisk when as soon as Sneaky Tactics was played, the scouting that they've done, it's no surprise that this strategy did not work. Although it was pretty close to working here, as the arc is still in their control. There is about 5 minutes left until they're forced to capture this arc, meaning that there will be a third and final arc fight. But being down 9k plus a 3.5k arc in the bank, 261k, unless they are provisioning gods, it's looking like it's looking really, really grim and dire right now here at 261k.
Yeah, I will be curious to see how this third arc goes. 21YL has stopped using stocking up. It's been about 20 minutes since they last used stocking up. So both teams will have a full 10 points at this next arc, and probably no more points than that. Although, I guess they could cast stocking up right about now. That would make a bit of sense. And so it'll be interesting to see if 261k can win another mid-fight. Like, let's say this next mid-fight is even. Can they win the next mid-fight? Are they the stronger mid-fighting team? If we're looking for a weakness from 21YL, that's the one I see so far, is that they just kind of just straight up lost that mid-fight. Because they've been making some very good calls. That call to ambush was fantastic. That was a great call to ambush. So it will be interesting to see how this third arc goes. Interesting to see like how do you find holes in the strategy of 21YL? They're probably gonna. I believe they play another Chinese team next week. This side of the bracket is all Chinese teams, and people will be looking for how do you beat 21YL and their strategy.
Yeah, I mean, 21YL has been nothing but solid this tournament. We'll have to see how they continue on with this winner side of the bracket. But let's go talk a little bit out of this match and talk about the Grand Prix as a whole. The Chinese teams have been coming back with a vengeance so far this Grand Prix. Brian, last season the Chinese teams did not perform the best. It was an international grand final or Grand Prix finals with 489 and 60 GT. I believe the favorites, which was GY16, were knocked out in the quarterfinals by 93T. 93T lost in the semifinals to 60 GT. So I've been told that these Chinese teams are coming back with a vengeance. They're coming back with some hunger and coming back with some fire to prove themselves in this Grand Prix. And we've been seeing a lot of different styles by these Chinese teams. And so far in the head-to-head matchups against international teams, they've been pretty dominant.
They have been. I think it remains to be seen which server is the favorite in this Grand Prix. I guess you could say the Chinese are a slight favorite at this point just because, one of their non-top 3 teams beat 60 GT last week. But HJK, HJK, the team from 188, they lost a very close match to, I believe it might have been GY16 last week. They lost a very close match to a very strong Chinese team. It was 466S, who we'll be watching in a few minutes. So it doesn't seem like the Chinese teams are much stronger than the international teams. It seems pretty close. And, I see 2 vectors, Plato, that this thing is going to be decided by. One is going to be strategy and just overall approach of the team, because there are different ways to do this. We are seeing different styles. We're seeing, mid-heavy styles. We're seeing provision-heavy styles. And we're seeing, to some extent, building-heavy styles. The other vector, though, is just straight-up mid-fighting skill. Which teams have better mid-fighting skills. They micro their marches better. They focus fire their marches better. Their engagements are better. we're gonna see. We're gonna see in these matches which server has an advantage in that sense. We saw like the Korean team from 27WP do very well with their mid fighting last week against the defending champs. We saw HJK again play a very close match last week. And in a few minutes, we're going to see 466S against 93T.
That's
Chinese. Chinese juggernaut versus international juggernaut. So it remains to be seen. But certainly the Chinese teams have made this super interesting at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be... We have stacked teams, stacked matchups this week. So be sure to subscribe to the official Rise of Kingdoms channel. This is only game 1 of 3 this stream. We have 3 games this stream. I'll be here with you through all of it. Brian will be here for the first 2, and then I'll be joined by Dirty Dan for the last game. So there is going to be a marathon of Ark of Osiris content here. And it's going to be so interesting to see 93T be tested by the Chinese server. And so what some people argue is one of the best teams in the Chinese server. As the Ark was captured, if we go back to this game, 12 minutes until this game ends, they are down by a whopping 13k points. You could see the difference in Ark score, difference in occupation score. Their window to come back was definitely shut when they lost what was pretty much an Ark that they controlled. But 21YL with the sneaky recovery. And in this bottom side, they've been behind this whole time. The Desert Altar has been draped and decorated in blue for what seems like most of this match. Those 2 factors being the big difference so far in this game.
Yeah, a very big advantage in total kills for 21YL. 76 million total kills to 64 million kills. They have put themselves in the positions to get that sort of a ratio in the open field. Even at some of these buildings that 21YL has taken, you see them, positioned very far forward. 261Ks, not super organized in their pushbacks. They're just sort of sending their marches forward. That does make sense, I think, Plato. I think it does make sense to just constantly throw your marches at the enemy, regardless of position, because you do have just so many troops that it's more about doing damage than it is about the trade. But,
yeah,
261K, I mean, it's... At this point, if they were going to be effective on the sides, I feel like they've had plenty of time to, right the ship. They've had plenty of time to be stable if they wanted to be. And... I think part of it is just that 261K has more gatherers than... Well, now it's about even, but both teams have about 5 gathering marches. And, one of the things I've seen in this Grand Prix so far is that teams haven't really been able to launch so much offense that they can counter those gathering marches, right? You have to flip a lot of buildings to counter those gathering marches. And it'll be interesting to see if the international teams go with the Chinese meta of heavy gathering, or if there will be some international teams who are like, no, we are going to counter this. There has to be a counter to the other team having 5 fewer marches than we do. I tend to think you just have to put some gatherers out there, actually.
Sometimes it's not even 5. I saw a match where there are 15 gatherers. 15 gatherers out there. And it's just a full defensive style where you would have a counter rally on the rallies. You would have double season Ethelfledge just run towards your structures so that you could fill up and reinforce your home structures. Your opponents are always going to be down in terms of trades, even if the structures are even, because you just have more gatherers out there. Games have been so close where it does come down to the amount of gatherers. And I think one thing that is different from this Grand Prix versus normal Osiris League is the fact that we have developer accounts. The fact that everyone has the same commanders, has all of the armaments, has all of the gear, has all of the commanders. It does make gathering stronger because not everyone in Rise of Kingdoms has gathering gear, for example. Now that you do have gathering gear, you have gathering armaments, you have the Gathering Commanders, it does actually make it pretty beneficial to gather in this game mode, compared to your normal accounts where you wouldn't really spec your accounts to gather.
That is interesting. I had not thought about the gathering gear and why that would be. But I mean, any gatherer in on a normal server has at least purple gathering gear, right? I mean, I know that the very specced out like legendary gathering gear is quite good. We should probably know how many more points of stats the legendary gear is.
It's not too much.
It's like 40, like 40% maybe, 40% more gathering speed. With the inscriptions and stuff too? Okay. So maybe even less than 40, you're saying.
I don't think there is inscriptions on ornaments. I think it's just base
I think there are inscription. I think it's I think there's no I think it's all it's like great inscriptions. Like I think everyone has 4 legendary special inscriptions, but then no base stats. They have all the inscriptions but no base stats is what I heard.
Interesting. Okay. So they changed it from the Grand Prix last. As we go into this mid fight, 2 minutes left. 261K having the numbers, but 21YL having the map. My goodness, it is painted blue right now. 21YL using sneaky tactics in this middle murder ball, so they are safe from the marches from 261K. At least some of them are. Others that were not lucky enough to hide away from the marches here. But you can see 21YL is just trying to delay this arc. 261K sending everyone mid, using Heaven's Grace in response. I think these two teams are just having fun with each other. This is a lot of mid presence though from 261K, and they're saying, hey, you know what? This arc, we're leaving everyone middle so we could at least have one turn name.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting that 21YL decided not to take this mid fight. You know you're going to win the match. Obviously, these teams are able to practice a lot on the Grand Prix server, and they can get a lot of reps in official scrims. But don't you want to get some nice practice here against one of the better mid fighting teams we've seen here in 261K? 21YL. I mean,
maybe they don't want to give away a strategy. Maybe they're like, hey, this game's already won. We're just gonna chill. We're gonna use sneaky tactics here, and show our face and see what happens. There's just so much 261K marching. This is crazy. As you can start to see, the arc has spawned. They do have arc carriers around it. Actually, it looks like the top side. Oh no, the bottom side of it. So they have control of the arc, and now you will see not even a murder ball. This is a murder cluster. This is a murder bomb surrounding
this is what they had last time. Like, they had about this amount of numbers last time, but they all sort of broke off and went to take their buildings back.
This time they are going to be fully committed to this arc. They know the game's over, 15K down, but for pride, let us at least get 4K from this arc. 5 minutes left to go. It'd be pretty funny if 21YL were able to steal this arc too, but it's looking very unlikely with the amount of marches that 261K has committed to this arc. But you can see the trade is a whole map here. Every structure is blue outside of this bottom side obelisk, generating points as well for 21YL. So just an absolute dominant first match that we got here. 21YL showing their prowess 2 games in a row against the Osiris League champions in the Chinese server.
Yeah, definitely impressive play from 21YL. We have to really respect their strategy and their decision making. And one choice they've made here in this match that I think is interesting is that they did take these obelisks, and what they chose to do was send one city to those obelisks as sort of a non-stop harasser of the obelisks. On the bottom side, we saw a city teleport there. Midway through the match, that city has stayed at the obelisk the whole time, and they're basically forcing the red team to fill up that obelisk, or else they're just going to keep flipping it over and over again. I think that's an interesting choice by 21YL. It's not the choice that you see every team make. And, you know, these are all, you know, we talk about the fighting ability, but really this is a big time decision-making tournament here. And I think with the escorts for the arc plot, like we're seeing a ton of marches escorting this arc this time. One could look at it and say, okay, this is a waste of resources to have this many marches escorting the arc. The thing you have to factor in, though, is they're not only accomplishing the objective of returning the arc safely, the other objective they are accomplishing is that they are making a lot of the blue marches waste their time as well. All the blue marches that have come to this arc carrier to try and ambush it. It's not a serious ambush, but they are nevertheless sending marches at this ball. All those marches have really wasted their time and done nothing. And I think that's the calculation that maybe teams have to switch a little bit, is like, don't just think about it as successfully escorting the arc. Also think about it as you are really making the ambushing marches ineffective, because we do see a lot of ambushing, right? We see a ton of ambushing happening in this Grand Prix, and that's just the meta in arc in general now, is to go for the ambush.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a morale factor to it, right? If you're able to take back the arc, it just feels a lot better than just letting it go, being, oh, we lost mid, so we're just gonna go about and go to our lanes. Arc was captured, so they have brought down the lead to a whopping 15k.
Let's go.
Reminiscent of Suns versus Dallas, Game 7. But they have at least captured the arc. They have the arc score on their board. The rest of the map, though, you can see the points per minute. 980 points per minute to 0. Pretty much painting the picture of this first game. That is not good. 980 points to nada, to zip, to nothing is pretty insane. Right.
Yep. They have at this point flipped all the outposts from the red team. I'm looking at the battle reports in these outposts, and some of them do actually have a garrison in them. 261k is garrisoning these obelisks a bit more than some of the other Chinese teams. As we get near the end of this match, Plato, and we're gonna see two like super good teams in a few minutes. I just want to get you on record before that happens. What do you think about putting a garrison or a march into your own outposts?
I think it's good. I think it's actually good. The reason being,
I agree.
It's just 3 points, right? It's 30 points per minute. 3 outposts is essentially 1 shrine. You should be able to. It nullifies the marches, because like most of these top teams, they have like 1-2 marches just in the back lines trying to snipe these obelisks. I feel like having 1 obelisk garrison is just, I mean, not outpost rather. Outpost garrison is just so good. Making sure that you keep control of those outposts nullifies the opponents that are trying to take it back. And you know, I think of it as like a gathering march, right? Where you gather, you get provisions. You know, 30 points per minute throughout a course of a match can be the difference. As in this match, it would not be the difference with the dominance of this 700k individual points for the winner there of the MVP. But you could see 42.9k to 26.7 winning in arc score, occupation score, but losing in provisions. But a dominant performance from 21YL. Do you have any final notes about this game, Brian, before we go to the break?
Nope, a solid game from 21YL, but I'm looking forward to seeing 2 very even teams in the next match. It's going to be a great match coming up in just a few minutes.
All right. We will be back with you guys as we go into a short 5-minute break. See you then.
Bonfire is blazing so bright, calling the fight from vigilance. We stand from dawn to twilight. The empires rise and conquer. In the wild face of danger, carry on to the victory. You better take a deep breath. Each dawn it brings a bitter fight. Another chill may run down your spine. Fear lurks beyond the edge of sight. Carry on to the glory, to the great victory. Never give up till you die. Never give up in this life. For every word that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind. Hold your weapons, try to fight. For every kingdom that falls and rise, it's time to become legendary. Chaos, sharpen your knife. Make way to find your destiny. Worship a man or a shrine. Can both recall a scattered. In the wild sound of wardrobes, tearing down all the enemies. You better capture the arcs. The carriers may bug you down. You set up for the swiftest ride. Sneaky Texas work as a best alive. Carry on to the glory, to the great victory. Never give up till you die. Never give up in this life.
As we are straight into game number 2. Brian, how you doing, man?
Doing good, Plato. Very excited for this match. 93T, you know, they are one of the absolute best teams on the international server, and I believe 466S is widely considered to be the best Chinese team.
So, the best of the best from the international server, the Chinese server. Whenever I see an international versus Chinese server matchup, I think, you know, we're not only playing for the matchup, we're not only playing for, you know, your alliance, your kingdom, but we're also playing for your server, which is an interesting component to it. I will say, Brian, it's kind of weird. My spectator doesn't have the timer at all, or the overlay.
Okay, I think I'm looking. You have the arc timer, and our timers are very similar.
Okay,
So-
so
I'm like 5 seconds ahead of you, but it
We
might
will
pop up.
just-
If not, I could just let you know how much time is left at any point.
yeah, we will just rely on you as we see 93T in the bottom right corner. We have 466S in the top left corner. Chat, who do you guys think is going to win this game? 93T, 466S. We have a poll up. 93T at 70%. So a lot of
Interesting.
people
Interesting.
thinking 93T. I mean, I would think that this YouTube stream is a lot more international. There's a lot more international people watching. It is rather late in China right now.
Let's look at the odds on the Chinese server. On the Chinese server, 466S was probably about a 2-to-1 favorite, maybe about a 60% favorite, 63% favorite.
The
So-
overlay has shown up for me, so we
Nice,
are
nice.
good to go as the gates have fallen. But yeah, Chinese server looking at 466S as a favorite. 93T is essentially the golden boys, one of the last bastions of hope for the international server, with what people saw as tournament favorites in 60 GT and 489 moving to the losers bracket last week. Let us go look at the opening rallies, though. The typical 4 obelisk rallies from both teams here. Brian, what do you think we'll be seeing in the opening? Do you think we'll be seeing any major deviations from the meta from either of these teams?
Well, it's certainly possible. I think this is the first time we're really seeing 93T in action. I don't think either team is going to hold anything back. They're going to play this match like it's a finals match. They want to stay in the winners bracket. In the past, in the Osiris League, we saw 93T go heavy on the outside lane. They would try to make things happen on the outside lane early on. I wouldn't call that, I mean, it would be notable if they did that because most teams are going pretty balanced, but that would be conventional. I think we're going to see conventional. I think it's but I think both teams have probably heavily prepared for this match, and it just remains to be seen how they decide to counter each other. I think it could go a lot of different ways, but from what we've seen from 93T is they're a pretty conventional team, and then they just stray a little bit outside the lines when it makes sense.
When I think of the international meta, I think of 93T. 93T has set a lot of the standards in Arc of Osiris that we've seen. They are the reigning Grand Finals champions of the international server. They've won the Grand Finals twice. They've won Horus, the Realm of Horus, twice. So within the past 2 years, they've been the one with the most accolades. The only place they've fallen short is actually the Grand Prix last season, where they lost to 60 GT in the semifinals. But we saw them upset what some saw as an upset, GY16 in the quarterfinals before making it to 60 GT. So if we look at last season's Grand Prix as an indication, they should be ready for these Chinese teams.
Yeah, I think one of the questions here is how serious is 93T about this Grand Prix? Are they practicing a ton? One notable data point, Plato, is you cast one of their KVKs recently. Are they playing in a heroic anthem right now?
They are in a heroic anthem. I believe that they're Zone 5. They're in Zone 5. I was told that they are going to be competing in this Grand Prix as if, with their full might. They had a pretty dominant Zone 5 opening, so they should be fine in this Grand Prix, but I don't know. It might be a factor.
Well, I mean, to me, it's a sign that they're going to take the Grand Prix super seriously, because this is probably the first heroic anthem KVK that 93 has played in years, in several years. It's considered a more casual map than some of the other ones. So to me, that's just a huge sign that they are putting all their effort into this Grand Prix, and I think that's like really exciting, and will likely pay dividends. And they might have ideas that no other team has. Honestly, if they're really theory crafting this thing, they might do something that no other team is doing.
And the thing about 93T that some people might be shocked about is I think not their whole team isn't VIP 17. There might be might not be VIP 18 rather. There might be some VIP 17 players. So the Grand Prix being completely even accounts should go to 93T's favor, although it should go to 466S's favor as well. Both teams being very strategic with how they play. And you will see this mid fight, or this Desert Altar fight, it's looking so even right now, actually, with the sad faces. But it does look like 93T have kind of an advantage now, at least for this top Desert Altar. If we go ahead and scroll over to the bottom Desert Altar, it looks a lot more contested, looks a lot more in the 466S's favor. So the aggressors for both the altars looking like they have control, at least in the beginning here, Brian.
Yeah, I think the two fights at the Desert Altars, though, were close enough. They were close enough that the defending team should be able to recapture these buildings before first capture is taken. If anything, it looks like 93T is, again, working that outside lane, trying to get value on the outside lane. On the top side, they've taken the Shrine of Life. They've taken both buildings on the top side. So they are putting 466S in a bit of a tough situation here. Do they try to take back both of their buildings before this first mid-fight? There's still 6.5 minutes. They do have some time, but do you try to take back both of your buildings on the top side?
I think the Desert Altar is a no-brainer because it's on the way to middle. The Shrine of Life is a bit more of a question mark. You are going to be giving away 400 first occupation points if you don't retake it. It also looks like 93T are bringing more marches to the Shrine of Life to make the question even more of a predicament for 466S. They will have to send some marches up here. So there are 6 minutes until Arc spawns. Will this be a bad timer for 466S? Will they start bringing some marches here? The thing is, if you bring marches here, you're going to sad face your opponents. They're going to be able to refresh. 93T is going to be able to refresh. If you retake the Shrine, you're going to be, rather low, have to take the Walk of Shame back home. We'll have to see. It looks like they do have a rally. They do have open field around the Shrine of Life. It is 1 minute 30 seconds until the first occupation happens. Until they claim first occupation. But they did retake their Desert Altar really, really fast. The Desert Altar for 93T, on the other hand, if we look at the other side of things, is still 1 minute away from being captured. So they're pretty much, I think 466S is in a pretty comfortable spot because of the state that they have the Desert Altar in. The Desert Altar first occupation 750 points is going to be worth a lot more than the Shrine, but they're still trying to retake it.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Ghost Rider 99 rotate fresh marches up to this Shrine of Life. Ghost Rider 99 is one of the best players on 93T. I think it was a good decision. They might hold this. The hold looks pretty good on the Shrine of Life. That is going to force a lot of these blue marches to essentially accomplish nothing, while then potentially getting to mid a little bit late. It's touch and go, though.
I don't know if it's accomplishing nothing. 20 seconds to go. This is getting really, really low from 93T.
If they're not able to, blue team brought enough. They brought just enough.
Wow, that was absolutely huge from 466S. Looks like 93T were able to take the Desert Altar back as well. So first occupation points will pretty much be even here. After all of that fanfare and hoopla, each team will have their home structures for first occupation. And that's
I mean,
what
these are the
happens with
fights
these
within the
really
fight,
good
though.
teams. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these little fights, like they might not always lead to something, but the winner of this match is going to be the team that has a few more good moments in those micro battles. It's going to be small edges. The only edges you're going to find in this matchup are small edges. We've seen that already with how close some of these first captures are. So, this is what the next 50 minutes are going to be just very close fights. And both teams are going to be looking for just the other team to wedge the door open a little bit so that they can walk on through.
I will say there are a lot of marches from 9-3-T middle. There aren't a lot of marches from 4-6-6S, and they're starting to layer rotate now. 2 minutes 30 seconds until arc spawns. This is usually the time that the Chinese server starts rotating middle. International server, I feel like they start rotating 5 minutes, 4 minutes. You can see 9-3-T has been standing here for quite some time. It looks like both teams, though, overall, are going to be going for this mid fight with 9-3-T having a tempo advantage. Brian, who do you think is going to win this first arc fight?
It looks to me like the rotation from 466S is maybe a little bit more crisp. They're getting there just on time. They didn't get there early. 93T has not always been a mid team. They've won a lot of big matches by losing arcs and winning the sides. I'm gonna, Plotter, you were hyping up the Chinese server in the last match. I'm gonna go. I don't know. It's so close. I'll go 93T. I'll play it. I'll just go with my team. Play it safe.
Hey,
but yeah,
we had
why bet against 93T at this point? You know what I mean?
Brian's international server heart had to go with 93T, even though your brain was going for success. I think it's going to be a very, very close mid fight, and I think this is the meta that we were talking about, right? Where this meta is evolving to where this first arc means a lot. This first arc means a ton. I expect to see to the death used by both teams to try to get control of this first arc, because we've seen games where one team doesn't use to the death, they lose the first arc. The second team that used to the death just goes structures for the rest of the game. That first team doesn't get to use to the death throughout the whole match, making it essentially an ineffective skill. So there's going to be, I think this is an evolution of the meta that we've seen so far, where both teams are going all in for this arc. You see dust up used by both teams as well.
Yeah, arc spawning in 20 seconds. Yeah, and some sharp movement by 93T. They got to the temple quickly and really, were coordinated in their movements. And now they're just going to wait until the arc actually spawns to engage each other. Looks like more of 93T is there, right? Looks like a lot of blue marches are still getting to this fight.
Oh my goodness.
Pretty wide engaged by both teams.
We have to the death casted by 93T. No response to the death by 4-6-6S. He used bog down instead. Sneaky tactics though used by 4-6-6S in response to the death. This is a must-win arc fight for 93T with the to the death usage. It is anyone's arc fight right now. We saw that 4-6-6S actually had the first pull. The arc is so far back into this murder ball. 4-6-6S looks like they have a pretty much clean pull coming out of this mid fight. Absolutely no marches from 93T chasing down this arc carrier.
Joan has to break off there. Ooh, that's a big pull.
That is an absolutely huge pull.
We're seeing tons of sad faces from blue. That is a huge pull. Close fight mid. 466S is looking pretty good here.
This double C is sprinting through the trees, trying to make its way out. Oh my goodness. It doesn't matter if you win mid if you don't get the arc. 466S stealing the arc from 93T's hands, even though they won the mid fight eventually as well. That could have been a different story if 93T was able to get that first initial pull. And this double C is speeding. This double C is galloping even with the heavy arc on its back. Looks like it was finally put down. But 93T don't have reinforcements around here. They're starting to send marches now, but 466S have a sentry. They know how many marches are going to be coming through. They have pretty much undisputed control of this arc. What an absolute dominant win by 466S in that first mid fight.
Really strong effort from 466S. Looks like they used 7 points mid, sneaky tactics plus bog down versus the 6 points of 93T using just to the death.
They use dust up as well. They use sneaky tactics, bog down, dust up.
Yeah.
To the death, dust up.
But it was really like bog down plus sneaky tactics against to the death. Bog down and sneaky tactics ended up winning. It was partly the pull. It may have been partly the skills because that was a long, close mid fight. And maybe also the fighting. We have to say with a somewhat clean win there for 466S, we have to say maybe they fought a little bit better mid as well.
Maybe perhaps the target selection, right? Where we initially saw a lot of blue sad faces come out.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean that you're winning the mid fight. That just means your opponents are targeting down your marches to sad face. What a lot of these mid teams do is as soon as one of the marches, if it's not a priority target, as soon as it gets around red, they start target swapping so that marches, the overall murder ball does less damage. So it was an absolutely huge win for 466S. 93T, because both of them full committed for that arc, are now reeling, trying to find an advantage elsewhere. You can see the Shrine of Life assault in this top side. There is also a Desert Altar attempt in this top side as well. And you can see that there is the Shrine, the Sky Altar rather, being attacked with CPOA and Tariq. So I like the fact that 93T didn't fully commit to trying to steal this arc there. They know it's the first arc. They used to the death. It sucks that they lost that first arc, but if you get back in structures, they are up by 300 points. They can perhaps go a building game and prepare for that second arc when it does eventually come.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed was that before that arc fight happened, there were no gatherers for 93T. We now see at least 4 gathering marches out there for 93T. I think it was correct to not do that ambush. It was good to call off the ambush on the bottom side, but they're not getting a lot from the side games so far. They've flipped the Shrine of Life on the top side. That's all 93T has managed to get. If you look at the kill points early on, it's basically dead even. So it is a very close match as we expected, but from a points advantage, it's really right now in 466S's favor. It'll be interesting to see where they go from here, whether they decide to do a very long hold on this arc, or whether they're just going to hold it, get a good timing, and then return it. And that's personally what I think they will do. I think they will take confidence from that first arc win, and they will try to make this a 3 or possibly 4 arc game.
Yeah, I mean, they potentially still have 466S being the day. They potentially still have to the death on the bar. So 93T using that in that first arc and losing means that they should be pretty like this. The rest of the arc should be disadvantageous to 93T. 466S, because they got that first arc, they have options, right? They can choose to go a building game if they want to for the second arc, which we've seen when teams use to the death. I don't know, man. 93T, they are doing what they need to do by gathering, by taking the Shrine of Life. But on the other hand, you could see the gatherers of 466S. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gatherers that I see so far. 6 gatherers, just, making sure that they don't get out-gathered, out-provisioned by 93T. And they've been outside of the Shrine of Life. These structures have been super, super hard for 93T to crack, which is what they need to do to get back into this game. So it's looking pretty rough, at least in the early going for 93T.
Yeah, I mean, that's if you consider To the Death to be a better mid skill than some combination of Bog Down, Heaven's Grace, maybe throw Total Vision in there as well. I mean, I haven't seen To the Death be all that successful in this Grand Prix. I know that 732 used it successfully against 60 GT, but I'm just not seeing overwhelming dominance by a To the Death mid attack versus the other options. Yeah. So I'm not convinced that it's like a huge edge to have To the Death versus not. We know that Silent Flow in the past has said that he thinks some combination of Heaven's Grace plus other stuff is better than To the Death. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it's still very close. 93T still has a lot of options. That mid fight was pretty close. 93T can turn the mid fight, and they are on the offense in this match, right? We have not seen much offense from 466S, and I think that's notable, right? That's notable. Teams can be more effective on the sides. There's a lot of teamwork involved in that. So 93T is looking pretty good on the side so far, even though they haven't flipped all that many buildings. Although they're going very hard at this Desert Altar at this point.
The hope of the international server in 93T versus the Titans in 466S, the Titans of the Chinese server in 466S. I mean, flipping this Desert Altar, absolutely big play from 93T. They need to just extend the point gap that they have as much as possible. Make the game as close as possible before they, as 466S captures the arc. As you were talking about, 93T have been the aggressive individuals in the laning phases, in the building phases. They've been able to hold back the attacks of 466S, so that is definitely a positive take, a positive outcome so far in the building game. What do you think happens in the second mid fight? Like the second mid fight will happen. Arc will be captured in about at most 6 minutes. They could capture a bit earlier if they want to. What do you think happens in the mid game? Do you think 466S go repeat for another arc? Do they go buildings? Will both teams go for this arc?
Yeah, I think both teams are going to go heavy on the next arc, and I think this is the tough thing for 93T. I mean, what we're seeing on the sides here is like really good teamwork by 93T, where they went heavy on the inside lane. We're now seeing a rotation, but the reason that 466S got that attack on the Sky Altar is because 93T put all of their effort on that inside lane in order to capture the Desert Altar. That was a really nice rotation. That was a really nice focus of effort on one thing. The mid fight is different. The mid fight is about individual player skill really doing a good job of targeting the correct marches. It's a different thing. It's different shot calling, and it's a different skill set. So 93T doesn't really have the same options in the middle game as they have on the side, but they have to win mid. Like, if you can't beat 466S mid, then you simply cannot win the Grand Prix. So I think the 93T has to try to win the next mid fight. It's a win condition for them in this match and in this tournament, and they just hope that the outcome is going to be different this time.
Bulbo pointed it out. It is looking like 466S want to make this a 2-arc game. Do you have any opinions about holding the arc if you're 466S? Like, would you want to capture a bit earlier? Like, why do you think they're capturing and holding this arc to fruition, pretty much guaranteeing a 2-arc game if they capture the second arc?
I would have probably returned it if I was 466S and made it a 3-arc game. I don't think they're like that nervous about 93T on the sides, because like there's not a huge point gap on the side play right now. So if I'm 466S, I'm trying to have as many mid fights as possible and sort of reduce the variance, because right now if it's a 2-arc game, that second arc is like incredibly important. Because if 93T wins, like, it feels like a game where, like, if 93T wins one of the arcs, they're going to win the match. And so don't you want more arcs if you're 466S to just smooth out the variance a little bit?
This is what I think about the 2 arc game for 466. I think they're pretty confident in their gathering. You can see that they did flip the Desert Altar of 93T, which is absolutely huge for them. But they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 gatherers out right now. So they're saying that, hey, even if 93T captures this second arc, the game should be at a pretty even state. So they might be down by the 1k that they're down, maybe 1.5 with the extra 500 points that arc would provide for 93T. They're saying we could hold the structures, we're confident in our ability to flip structures, and we're confident in our ability to provision the difference. I think that's what it indicates to me, is that they want the point number overall to be as low as possible so that the provisions are worth as much as possible.
Yeah, I think that's a really good read. I had not noticed how many gatherers they had, and that's a really good. You made a really good connection between the math of gathering and the number of gatherers that we have relative to the arc scoring. So I think that's a very good strategy for 466S. It's worth noting that 93T can get information about how many they can get information from us from this stream about how many gatherers that 466S has, and they can adjust accordingly. They could adjust simply by like sending more gatherers out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, we talked about the small edges, and what we're discussing now are small edges that the teams might be able to gain by their overall strategy. And I think what you're describing is like a very visible small edge that 466S can have. So it does make sense to me. But in a game of small edges, 93T can then like counter back against that strategy.
Yeah. I think they know that 93T don't have that many gatherers. They know they have gatherers out right now, but do they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 gatherers out right now? It's 13. Probably not, right? So they're saying we're right now, as the game is going on, we're getting more points than them. You could see even in structures with 93T having the numbers advantage, the structures are still flipping for 466S. So they're really comfortable with the structure game right now. They're comfortable with having this first arc, which will be captured in about a minute. So they're saying if the structure game's going well, if we're provisioning more, then this second arc, or holding this arc and pretty much pretty much giving the opportunity for there only to be 2 arcs is a decent choice for them. So we'll have to see if it pays off though, because 93T have also provisioned in the past. But because 466S started provisioning before 93T, I feel like they're pretty confident. They did capture the arc right at the 30-minute mark here. So there will be an arc fight in about 8 minutes. And this arc fight will determine if 466S, control and dominate this game, or if 93T could come back.
Yeah. One of the downsides to holding the arc until the very last second is that you are not able to pick the timing of that return to coincide with a good approach to the second arc. I think what 93T wanted to do was hold this Desert Altar for a while and disrupt that approach. It's close here. It's close at this Desert Altar. This is a big capture here. This is a big capture that 466S is trying to accomplish to get back this Desert Altar. If this push does not work and they have to re-push on this building, that can really disrupt their second mid approach. And it looks like 93T is holding here.
What a huge hold. Wow.
Yeah, that's a very big hold right there for 93T. So
I mean, having 3 altars is exactly what you want from 93T, being down in the arcs, right? Just trying to make up that point differential as much as possible.
Yeah, and this is a really important building. This is an amazing offensive building to hold, because what 93T can now do is they can have their low health marches sad face, the marches that have already died, they can come right back to this desert altar. And so what they can do is, if the blue team attacks this desert altar, they can fight them there. If the blue team decides to go mid, then they are in the perfect position to pick off those marches as they're walking mid. So I think what we're going to see is a heavy flood of this desert altar by 93T. It's going to be tough to hold it again, but both teams are going to just go heavy on this building, and 93T is trying to give themselves an advantage for the second mid.
That's a great call, where if you bring marches to the desert altar, even if you have an overwhelming flood of marches, they don't have to be idle. They can try to disrupt the rotation from this top side of 4-6 success. So it's kind of a double win for 93T if they're able to hold this. There are a lot of 4-6 success marches swarming this desert altar down. This Eleanor is holding on for dear life, but my goodness, the swarm from 4-6 success making sure that they at least get this desert altar before any real rotation mid. Now the question is, what do the 93T marches do? I think they will start going away from this desert altar, perhaps starting this mid rotation, as there are 5 minutes left. It's kind of an awkward spot, 5 minutes, right? Usually international server you would start rotating, but with how late the Chinese server rotates, you're just twiddling your thumbs essentially for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes if you rotate it this time. But if you go out to attack, you're gonna be behind in that mid rotation. So it's kind of an awkward situation right now for 93T. It looks like this top side though is going to be towards the Sky Altar defense, so that these marches that are defending the Sky Altar can start refreshing. But I will say it is 93T flavor if they don't go for this mid fight and go structures. I do see a world where that happens.
Well,
I don't know if it works out though.
Yeah, I mean, look at the bottom side. Look at the rotation that 93T is doing on the bottom side from their desert altar to the enemy Sky Altar. 4.5 minutes before the arc spawns. They're going to try to take this building. I mean, they have a heavy attack on this Sky Altar. I don't think they're... Man, they can't be giving up the arc. They know they have to win the second arc, but they're just going to try to walk a tightrope here where they flip some buildings and go for the arc. But Plato, do they need to do that? I mean, if they get the arc, then they're in the lead without this building action.
I'm not sure.
Pretty risky call here by 93T.
It is very risky. And what this indicates to me with the outer lane structure play that they're going for here is that they have a plan for mid. They're probably going to use sneaky tactics. I don't know. Perhaps there's a sneaky tactics master strategy play for them, but I definitely think they're still going to aggress and try to go for a mid play. But just trying to test 4-6 success, seeing if 4-6 success went full mid or if they're going for, like, I think they thought 4-6 success would think that 93T would go full mid and that these structures would be wide open. But 4-6 success with the vision, like these sentries for these Sky Altars, the sentry.
Look at the top side. Look at the top side right now. Look at what's happening. So 93T was posturing towards this desert altar again, and now they're actually going mid. It's almost like they changed their mind, where they were thinking about attacking the desert altar, but they just changed their mind and decided to go mid instead. And I think, I don't know why exactly that happened. It almost, maybe they saw what was happening on the outside, on the bottom side, where they saw that bottom's going to be late and they had to have somebody mid. And so Silent Flow said, all right, we have to go mid. We have to go top side. They still are changing their mind. Look, they're going back and forth. They are going back and forth. 93T is a little bit discombobulated right now.
Yeah,
I mean 2.5 minutes before arc, and they can't decide whether they're going mid or not.
They don't want to all in for this mid fight. I think that's already clear. The fact that they don't have mid presence,
they have to.
They have a couple marches. The murder ball that they have, they split up this topside murder ball in half. This indicates to me
it's a
sneaky
fake
tactics.
mid.
Sneaky tactics into delay for this mid. And then they're trying to go full buildings here. They're trying to they're saying to 4-6 Success that, hey, you defended us the first time, but can you defend us the second time when you're fully rotating mid? I think they knew they were behind in tempo because of their building play earlier, and they're saying we can't answer mid. We're just gonna lose mid if we go straight mid without tempo. So they're saying, all right, we have to flip something. Let's go flip these structures.
They could have just sent everybody mid 2 minutes ago, though, and had a straight up mid fight. They're choosing to do like an ambush. They're sacking the mid, taking some buildings, and then hoping to ambush the arc. It's a very ambitious strategy when what they could have done is just win the second mid and hope you hold on with the gathering. I mean, maybe they're crunching the numbers real hard. And now 466S has to respond appropriately, which is like, I think, with just a very heavy escort of the arc.
Yeah.
And a bog down in the middle of nowhere.
Bog down on the marches in his middle, trying to, I guess, catch them out before they use any sneaky tactics. So the middle marches were on top of a sentry, so they were completely seen by the 466S marches before they could even put down sneaky tactics. And this is going to be uncontested arc. I'm going to be so curious to see how 466S decide to play this, because the buildings are flipping to 93T. You could see that every building except this one bastion of hope in the Sky Altar, which is about to fall here, has flipped red. So the real question is now, how long will 93T be able to hold these buildings? And what does 466S decide to do in terms of escorting this arc, in terms of trying to capture this arc? Because the buildings now is heavily in 93T's favor, and is going to be if the buildings start ticking points for 93T.
I think that 466S is playing this like a team that's in the driver's seat. They are saying, if we take this arc, if we escort it safely to our territory, you will not get enough points to make up for the fact that we have taken both arcs. And I think that calculation is just fine. I mean, it's sort of like what they're doing is a little bit... Actually, they're playing with a bit of swag right now and splitting up. They're only doing a half escort of this arc. I would have thought they would do everyone escorting the arc, but does 93T have enough on the bottom side to ambush this thing, and are they going to go for it?
93T thinks they're going for their Desert Altar. 466S is saying, we're not even going to let this be a situation where we can steal it.
Master strategy.
We are master strategying the arc home, so it's safe. I actually love this play from 466S, taking away the variance from 93T. 93T though, on top of the master strategies, but if you could pick out the arc carrier from that bunch of marches, then you are a really, really good Rise of Kingdoms player. But you could see that
it's a bait, right? They're baiting all of these red marches to like waste their time and run into a giant blue ball, and that's going to make it so that blue can take back their Sky Altar faster.
Yeah, what I absolutely love this play from 466S, because the only variance in this play for 466S is if the arc wasn't captured. Now it's completely in control of 466S, and now they could focus on taking back the structures one by one. They already took back the Shrine of War. You were talking about how the Master Strategies was a bait so that 466S could capture the Sky Altar with little resistance. Now they have they barely have anyone around the Sky Altar. They have no one at all actually around the Sky Altar for 93T. That will fall. So even though it was 93T made the call to go buildings, they're not holding the buildings for long enough to where it's worth giving up a free arc.
Yeah, I think when they launched that strategy, the ambush was always in the back of their mind. I think that was always an ambitious plan, but it at least had like a chance to work. But then once 466S warps that arc, the ambush has zero chance. And so it's just a rock solid play by 466S. And as boring as what 466S has done over the last 5 to 6 minutes, they have simply been a rock solid team that has done what they need to do to, at this point, have a 5,500 point lead, roughly.
Yeah.
So and that's just a lot. And this can be the last arc of the match. Like 93T just mathematically almost can't make up the 5,500 point deficit that they're looking at right now.
Yeah, I mean, you could see 93T starting to bring out more provisioners out there, but we were talking about how 466S, they've been provisioning this whole time. Like they shouldn't lose via provisions, especially when they're up by about 1k points. They have a 3.5k arc in the bank, so they're up by 4k. I don't think 93T can make up 4k in provisions. They will need to make it up via buildings, but the altars have already flipped back. The Shrine of Life being the last bastion of advantage that 93T was able to make for themselves. It is getting pretty low here with Joan of Arc swarming. What's the play, Brian, for you, for 93T? Like, how did they get back into this match? Well, what can they do to steal this away from 466S?
Well, I mean, I think they have to somehow get this arc carrier to return the arc. Mm-hmm. There needs to be some sort of pressure on this, like a obelisk rally. They probably don't have master strategy. We can take a look if they used it last week or not.
They only used 3 skills this match. They've only used 3 different skills this match. They still have
that's crazy.
3 question marks.
They have so many points right now, right? If they had master strategy, they probably would have used it in between that second arc for some sort of a play. So, you know, it's a tough spot. Yeah, they didn't last week. They did not have master strategy. They had Desert Storm instead last week. You know, Plato, I don't know what happened with 93T there. Obviously, most of these top teams, they will have different voice channels for the 2 sides. Like there will be a top side voice chat and a bottom side voice chat.
Yeah.
You almost wonder if the bottom side decided to rotate to that sky altar, and then the top side saw that and were like, well, we're kind of screwed for mid, and so that's why we saw that sort of discombobulated movement by the top side. I don't know if that's what happened, but I think you have to call that like a really significant blunder by 93T to just give up the second arc in a 2-arc match. And so at that point, you know, you're asking me now, what should they do? I mean, there's just like not a lot to do at this point. Wait. Okay, I was doing the math wrong. Why does 93T have a ton of points all of a sudden?
I think it's just the altars, because it wasn't provisions. I think it was just the altar points now finally getting flipped. Like that was a solid like 6 minutes of 466S not controlling their own altars. So perhaps that's what happened in this case, but they are up by 100 points. That means that they would be down by 3.5 with the arc, or 3.4 rather, with the arc in 466's hands, 466S's hands.
And if anything, it's 466S that has been returning gatherers so far. So we can almost say the gathering is even going forward, or maybe even in 93T's advantage. So, I mean, 93T has time to maybe flip this building game and put this thing within spitting distance at least.
I mean, they have to flip these structures. I think 466S, though, knows that these structures are going to be so important. They actually took the Shrine of Life away from 93T. And, you know, the game's so close. So it's every single point that you can get matters. So the Shrine of Life flipped, Sky Altar defended. 93T is trying to aggress onto the Sky Altar, though, from their Desert Altar lane. We have 14 minutes of what looks to be a very, very, very heavy structure game.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's interesting to me, and I think I've seen this most clearly on the Desert Altar lane on the top side, is that what I saw in the qualifiers quite a bit was you saw teams just non-stop sending marches to buildings because they had, you know, so many troops that they didn't mind, you know, like filling up their hospital and over and over again. And what I'm seeing from 93T is much more organized. They are balling up and then attacking as a group. I think that's interesting that this is the strategy that teams are going with, is like a very traditional arc strategy rather than nonstop damage. It's giving them it's giving them the building advantage, but like they're just not gaining a lot on the buildings, right?
I guess the thing is, if you go straight in, it's tempo, but you know, you have less of a percentage chance to flip the structure. When you ball up and you aggress all together, you have a better chance to flip the structure, but you flip the structure, like you attack less. Does that make sense? Because you're not just continuously attacking the structure.
Yeah, so you flip it less often. You know,
yeah.
the pressure game is about like flipping the building. It's not really about holding the building. You just completely constantly flip the building and don't let the enemy team generate points. I mean, 93T has gained almost 5,000 more points on the building game in this match. So all these flips throughout the match have been adding up for 93T. They're still down 3,500.
Yeah.
Once you
will it add up
thing.
to the 6.5k that the arcs add up to 466S is a real question, right? It's, I don't know, with 12 minutes left to go, they have to make the difference in these structures. They are down in points per minute because of the Shrine of Life flip. And now, like, they're desperately trying to get these Desert Altars, but it's way easier to play defense than it is to play offense.
It is. It's much easier to play defense. We're seeing a massive number of gatherers from 466S. And so 466S is keeping the building game even with fewer marches because they're on defense, because they have to travel less of a distance to get to these buildings, and they have the garrison captain. So, you know, 466S just has a very tough strategy to beat. And this is the combo we're seeing from some of these top Chinese teams, is like defense, gathering, and winning mid. And that's just sort of like a game theory optimal strategy, I think.
Yeah, because it takes way too many resources to rely on flipping your opponent's structures.
Yeah, it's like the hardest thing in the game. It's the hardest thing in the game to flip the structures. This is what 93T has made their living on for years, is playing a really great structure game. But the structure game is very tough when the enemy team has unlimited troops. And the structure game is very tough when gathering is as strong as it appears to be in this Grand Prix.
Yeah, and it's really tough when you're facing the best of the best opponents in Rise of Kingdoms in the Grand Prix for both the Chinese and international servers. The Arc firmly in 466S's control, comfortably in between the two buildings here. It will be captured in about 4 minutes. That will give 466S, ooh, sneaky tactics. Sneaky tactics. Interesting. I think the sneaky tactics will not really, like,
it's a rotation. It's a rotation to the Sky Altar on the bottom side. They're using sneaky tactics to rotate. It's going to give them an attack boost. It
does also make 466S question if they're going for this arc. You can see a bunch of marches now just standing on top of the arc. Yeah. So that should indicate that the Sky Altar will be a free take for 93T.
Yeah, it's a nice attack. It's really a nice attack by 93T. And, you know, we're seeing, or it should be a nice attack by 93T. We are seeing nice attacks by 93T. I mean, they have gone with a different approach than the Chinese teams. They have just decided that their approach is going to be the best way to go. It may not work in this match, but we are seeing like really crisp side play by 93T, which does make them different than the other teams, the other top teams that we're seeing in Osiris League.
93T with the sneaky tactics, able to get full control around the Sky Altar. And that split up the murder ball of 466S. Now the people that walked back to the Arc are walking back to an open field around the Sky Altar where their friends have already been sad-faced. You could see 93T just keeping 1K marches out there just to tell their homies that are coming in the horrors that they face as they abandon them for the Ark. But I mean, the Sky Altar looks like it is now being swarmed down. The reinforcements are being cut off from 93T. So this is going to be at least 300 points taken away from 466S. And the longer that they hold this, the better it is for 93T. Do you see a world where 93T could come back with building flips and provisions? Is this possible for them?
Let's say they get 400 more points per minute with 9 minutes left. That's 3,600 points. That would, I guess, make this an even game once if we don't count the gatherers, but we have to count the gatherers at this point. And I mean, 93T has brought some gatherers out now to make it sort of even.
I think every caravan in 466's side has been taken by a gatherer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 marches gathering out there for 466S. So they're trying to make sure that, hey, gathering will not be the reason why we lose. In fact, it will secure us a victory. 466S using to the death now.
To the death. To try to take back this Sky Altar. You see how effective that Sky Altar attack was. It was a great call by you that it like froze the marches guarding the Ark. It confused the marches that were in the field. So like a super nice attack on the bottom side by 93T that might I mean, I guess you can't survive to the death here, can you?
No.
I mean, to the death is pretty nasty on the sides.
It's to the death for their opponents because they have been sad faced off of Osiris here. As we see, you know, the rallies start coming in. They're going into the Sky Altar. The Sky Altar will flip. So it was a good hold. They took away about 600 points from 466S with holding it for about 2 minutes after they captured it. Maybe they might be able to get a tick, but I don't know. 10 seconds to go. Sky Altar was a good play, but they weren't able to make anything else happen on the map, which has been, I guess, kudos to 466S because they've been able to hold structures down. It's a march disadvantage with how many marches has been provisioning for them. And I think this is a meta now where if you have Ark control, you just provision. You just provision. Wait, we see that 90T are actually having people snipe the provisioners out as well. But you just provision when you get Ark control, so that hold your structures provision, and you should win the match. And you know, so far it's been working for 466S. We'll have to see what 93T's provisioners look like, but I would guess with the 20 provisioners 466S have out, they should have an advantage in provisioning as well.
Yeah, you know, one thing we're seeing in this match is that 93T has only cast 5 skills. They have 1 skill unrevealed. They've cast very few skills on the sides because most of their skills are just not useful. I mean, they have Bog Down, which is hard to use on the sides. What I think is interesting is because you have to think about the tournament going forward. I forget the name of the skill, but there is a skill that boosts the gathering, right? It sort of increases the amount of resources that you bring back from every resource tile.
Yeah.
Imagine if 93T had that skill and this was a 2 Ark game and they could use some of their points in between arcs and they could boost up their gathering while also dominating on the sides. I'm just looking at that in a vacuum, but in this match, that's the kind of thing that could have countered the 466S strategy, is to have a gathering boost skill of your own that you just don't pay the price for because the enemy's not pressuring you on the sides and you're not counting on winning mid in order to win the match. Yeah,
I mean, that would be so interesting if they use the gathering skill. Heaven's Grace used by 93T. I saw someone say use Bog Down on the provisioners as they start walking back home. Imagine if they
Kind of
lose
cool. It's actually
off of a Bog Down.
you could master strategy like your marches to like attack the gatherers as they're walking home at like the last second. Although that actually wouldn't work because if you get sad faced in the field, you still get credit for the resources.
You still get credit for the resources. Yeah. As we see, this Desert Altar looks like it will flip. I don't know. 4-6 success having a stream of reinforcements come in, but overall looks like will it flip? It does flip. If 93T loses game, Brian, the international server is looking rough. We have 489, 60 GT, and 93T in the losers bracket. That would be insane. That losers bracket is crazy.
We still have the realm of Sobek champions, Plato.
That is true.
Have faith in Sobek. 27 WP, the pickup team. They are still in the winners bracket. You're going to be casting that match next. They will be up against a Chinese team, and you know they might have the chops mid to like win mid, and you know have their strategy be based on winning mid fights. 93T in this match did not give themselves enough chances to win mid. I thought they looked pretty good in that first mid fight. It was fairly close, and they might have just used worse skills, you know?
I feel like the pull was absolutely huge from 4-6 success as well. If the pull was the opposite for 93T, even though they did eventually lose the mid fight, perhaps it would have been the mid fight lasted for quite some time. Perhaps they would have been able to reinforce, have this extended mid fight, perhaps get more pulls off. But 4-6 success, their R carry, kudos to them, was able to pull it so far away from that mid fight. And I feel like that really secured that mid fight, and from there secured the control that 4-6 success has had throughout this game. I think that's the struggle about going full mid, is if you don't win that first mid fight, you are going to be behind. Similar to 261K, where they went full in for an obelisk. If you go full in for mid, you're going to be behind in terms of tempo for the rest of the game. And that's just what 90T's been. They've been trying to create their own opportunities and their own pathways to win. But 4-6 success with their provisioning, with holding the structures, and with the arcs have had control throughout this match. And you could see the provisioners starting to walk back home. It's currently 4.4k in provisions to 1.9. And that's with perhaps like 5-6 provisioners still walking back home.
Yeah, it looks like both teams did a very good job of getting their gatherers home in time. Just a really professional gathering effort from these two juggernaut teams.
6.5k. The three provisioners that came back later for 4-6 success, I've definitely been out there for the whole game, because they jumped from like 4.4 to 6.5. That is an absolutely huge amount of provisions, and I think that's the meta now. You have to have good provisioners. You have to have people that are proficient in provisioning, proficient in gathering, for you to kind of get these extra free points out on the map. 4-6 success, we're like, hey, we're gonna make it a 2-arc game, and we're just gonna provision and hold our structures. It's a very, very standard, very, very safe way to play, but it definitely has worked out so far in this match. And the arc has spawned, but it is not enough for 93T. GG's to both teams, but the international server Golden Boys, the heroes, have fallen to 4-6 success. 37.9k to 35.1k. It is not over for 93T though. They will be in the losers brackets. So if you want to watch more Ark of Osiris content, be sure to subscribe to this channel. Brian, do you have any final notes for this game and for the day?
Look, the kill points were dead even between these two teams. We talked about the pull on that first arc. It could have been a split-second difference between the 466S carrier grabbing that arc versus the 93T carrier. These were very thin margins overall, even though the game was decided with about 15 minutes left. I think we have plenty more to see from 93T in this tournament. This was a close match against China's best. Looking forward to many future matches from both of these teams. I think we saw two of the best teams in the tournament in this game.
Yeah, two of the best teams indeed, bringing us a banger. We have a third game for you, though, but we are going to be saying bye to Brian. We will catch you guys after a short 5-minute intermission.
Bonfire is blazing so bright, calling the fight from the ancient lands. We stand from dawn to twilight, the empires rise and conquer. In the wild face of danger, carry on to the victory. You better take a deep breath, each dawn it brings a bitter fight. Another chill may run down your spine, fear lurks beyond the other side. Carry on to the glory, to the great victory. Never give up till you die, never give up in this life. For every word that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind, hold your weapons, try to fight. For every kingdom that falls and rise.
Hello, governors. We are back with the third game of the day. We have 732A in the top left corner with 27 WP in the bottom right. Alongside me is a new guest today. We had Brian for the first two games. We have Dirty Dan for this final one. Dirty Dan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Just came off of a nice nail-biting match over, watching GY16, that kind of Chinese server juggernaut, going at it with 748W and really going down to the wire and going down to provisions over there. So looking to continue that excitement over here on this session with you, my friend. How you holding up? We're going on 3 hours now. The true champ over here.
My goodness. I mean, I've been waking up slowly but surely after every match, but we're trying our best. How did that match go? How did GY16 go for?
It It was honestly back and forth. 748W was pretty much answering GY16's building antics as they kind of showed us last week. They closed a 4,000 point occupation score gap, lost the last arc, and then it came down to provisions where GY16 put up another 6K plus points to steal the match.
What an interesting outcome for that. My goodness. That means 27WP is the last remaining team in the winners bracket, in the upper bracket of this tournament. All the other international server teams, Dirty Dan, are in the lower bracket.
Yep.
27WP all of a sudden, out of nowhere, are the saviors, are the heroes that the international server need. But they are familiar names, even though the alliance is not familiar. A lot of these players are coming from the Korean team of 489 that won Grand Prix last year. We also see some 1365 players. They have a ton of experience, even though it is a different team. As we get into the match here, Dan, what do you think of this matchup, and what are you expecting?
I mean, just with being the last international team, I think you really got to see 27 WP really kind of bring it here, and being part of that 489 kind of team, I think it boasts very well for them. But we got to keep in mind here, 732A, I think pulling off that shocker last week and sending 60 GT to the lower bracket. So I think 27 WP has quite the uphill battle here as they go up against, you know, that team that kind of knocked off one of our international server juggernauts.
Indeed, man, this game is going to be insane. This is going to be such a good one to watch here. As we see...
As have all of them. I mean, I think we've had a few matches that kind of have gotten out of hand, but I mean, I think for the most part, we've seen these matches and even the matches that have gotten out of hand, they've been so exciting because of all the different like tempos and tactics and strategies that we've been seeing at play through this entire Grand Prix.
Indeed, Dirty Dan, indeed. As we see the opening sentries here, the standard 2 sentry starts in the top side, and just in between the structures here of the Desert Altar and the Shrine of Life, probably seeing how many people are going towards the outer lane for 732A versus 732A's sentry in the beginning here, in the spawn. This seems to be the sentry positioning of pretty much all the Chinese server teams that we've been spectating so far.
Mm-hmm. And I've yet to see an international team adapt that, which is quite interesting to see as well.
Yeah, I mean, they see how many marches are walking towards each side, and perhaps even see to which lane, because, you know, most people just like left click and click towards the lane they're going towards. So you could see the lines coming in.
I think that those sentries are key even for that first match that you and Brian casted earlier, the 261 and the 21YL, where there was a massive play for that obelisk, and I think 26YL kind of had a little bit of a gut feeling that was going to be coming, just due to that sentry that was placed and seeing how many marches were going to that top lane. Yeah,
so these opening sentries mean a ton. You know, as you said, 21YL able to sniff out a sneaky tactics play.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like we won't be seeing too much of that here. Pretty standard positioning from these marches, from these teams. Looks like a lot more of an outer lane presence though from 27WP in this bottom side. We'll have to see if that will compromise their Desert Altar defense, because there are a ton of marches from 732A that are coming in towards this Desert Altar. I don't know if 27WP actually have enough to defend this. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna have enough there, and we're probably gonna get maybe a potential flip on those altars on the bottom side, which kind of then goes in favor for 27WP. a little bit, because their Desert Altar is going to be a little bit closer to that mid, and those refreshers are just going to be a little bit easier to get to, and forcing 732A a little bit of a farther march from that mid. If they even decide to go there, who knows? Who knows with the Chinese team servers, because they send like 10% of their players to these arc fights. So who knows?
Yeah, it's going to be. It's an interesting strategy for sure. 732A having full control of the 27WP Desert Altar. Looks like in the top side, a similar situation where 27WP actually are aggressing and have, I would say, positioning in this Desert Altar area. 50 seconds until this Desert Altar spawns in, and you could fill the Desert Altar. It's looking like a pretty favored fight though for 732A, at least in this top side.
Yeah, looks like they're clearing out that ball pretty nicely, and they probably should get control of that Desert Altar, of their home Desert Altar, I should say.
Yeah, they will have control of their home Desert Altar. It looks like the Sky Altar will also be in control. So this top side of the map looks pretty standard. This bottom side of the map looks nothing like that top side, where the Desert Altar is getting completely overrun. 5 seconds to go until that structure can be flipped. Meanwhile, the Sky Altar, there looks like there is quite the tussle between the open field marches of 732A, even though they are outnumbered. There is not going to be a rally on this. It takes 1 minute to set a rally if you're an aggressor. So 27WP will start swarming this with only open field marches probably.
And yeah, really good play here by 732A to get the proper garrison in there. I think if there was without the proper garrison, I think that thing would fall a little bit quicker, as it actually might go down here.
Yeah, I think it was only the garrison in there, and like maybe one march, maybe two marches. It definitely was not a full structure. 27WP did a great job of just swarming down all the marches around the structure so that they couldn't fill it. So overall, just structured trades from these two sides right now.
Structured trades, and then we're gonna see with just over 6 minutes, and again, the mid calls are probably gonna be a little bit delayed, as we're now starting to kind of enter this new meta realm where the rotations aren't as early as we're used to seeing Plato. But now it's gonna come to the question of who is gonna actually show up for mid and who's gonna decide to focus on buildings.
Yeah, I mean, there's been this dilemma, right, where I feel like most of the teams that win the first mid fight have control of the game, and usually they're more favored to win the game than not. You know what I mean? If you win that first arc fight without giving too much, we saw last game, 93T versus 466S. 466S took that first mid fight, took that first arc, and took control of the game throughout the rest of the game. So this first arc will mean a lot, and I'm curious to see if both teams will all in for it, which we saw last game, or if there'll be one team that just decides to go buildings, because the first arc technically is worth the least amount at only 3k.
Yeah, and I think we saw last week too, 732A was that team to use to the death on the first arc, I believe it was, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Pardon? Can you say that again?
That was 732A last week using to the death on that first arc against 60GT, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then 60GT just couldn't use to the death because there wasn't a mid fight after that. So
yep,
I'm sure 27WP have done their scouting reports, have seen that game, and are probably having that in the back of their minds right now, just saying, hey, we have to be prepared for some form of a mid fights, and perhaps that first mid fight will be the only mid fight in this game. Sky Altar has been flipping back and forth. We have an XY garrison from 732A, so not the ideal garrison for the Sky Altar. They did get to the Eleanor in there, but it was too little too late. Sky Altar still has not gotten first occupation, and this is going to be a question for 732A. If they go rotate mid, because it is about 4 minutes until arc spawns, or if they try to retake the Sky Altar, because this is going to be 750 points of first occupation waiting for whoever wants to claim it.
Yeah, I think 732A. And again, that's the importance that we were kind of keying in on during the Osiris leagues that we were casting together. And the importance of that outside lane and really kind of making the tough decision if you want to reclaim that or allocate those resources to go mid, because the distance is just so far, right? So I think 27 WP definitely being in an advantageous position here, just a few minutes before arc with that farthest altar in hand.
Yeah, it is going to be. I mean, it looks like they are sending some marches. It's kind of a split call. Honestly, they have some people walking mid. I think the people that are allocated towards the outer lane, allocated towards the Sky Altar, are still walking towards the Sky Altar. But there are a ton of 27 WP marches just sprinting to the Sky Altar, trying to get this advantage. And honestly, it's a pretty big advantage. 750 points initially. Plus, you're taking away 150 points continuously. Honestly, I kind of like the play of just committing to the Sky Altar and saying, hey, like, we're going to send people mid, but you will have to make the decision if you want to contest the Sky Altar or not. Yeah,
I mean, it's almost about a half of the points of that first arc if you're talking about, the 750 that they're capturing and also the 750 that they're denying. So really nice play there from 27 WP, looking to capitalize on that first occupation.
We have about 2 minutes 20 seconds until this arc spawns. In terms of overall numbers, I feel like there are more 732A marches coming through. You could see that there is this hidden pocket of players here from 27 WP that will probably start walking towards the Desert Altar here.
It looks like 27 WP taking a page from the Chinese server teams and opting for a little bit of a more aggressive building approach here on this first arc spawn.
A little bit more of an aggressive approach. We have 25 seconds until this Sky Altar will give first occupation. Oh my goodness. It is getting so close for these marches. They do have a lot of marches around for 27 WP, so they should be able to reinforce. It looks like they actually did not swarm down these marches, which, I, looking at it, I was pretty worried, but you could see the health of the marches, that it wasn't a threat, and they're like, hey, the longer these marches are on the open field, the less threatening they'll be, because they'll have to take that long walk of shame back home. The more we delay that walk of shame, the better. We have Sneaky Tactics placed mid for 732A, so it looks like just to deny the vision of the full murder ball in this middle fight. 27 WP won't have a full picture of how many marches are middle for 732A. I guess neither will 732A, because Sneaky Tactics was used in response. So we see double Sneaky Tactics for these two teams. We see Dust Up that was also used for 732A.
732A kind of having an idea of where the hidden marches are going. I see them kind of trying to sniff it out, but those Sneaky Tactics marches staying hidden there. Very good instincts from 732A, but the skills just proving to be a little bit too tough. The battle's going to engage now.
Yeah, it looks like with the Sneaky Tactics marches, they're actually planning to take a fight. Pretty surprising, because I believe they're outnumbered currently in this murder ball fight. You could see the two arc carriers, as the arc has spawned, they are tied in terms of the timer here. So who will get the first pull? Will it be... Oh, it was an arc carrier in this bottom side. There was a third contender that we didn't see that just got insta-swarmed down. My apologies to you, but it looks like 732A will have full control of this arc. Will have full control of this first mid-fight. And in return, probably have full control, well, have pretty decent control of this game. They are down by 2.2k. They were able to take back the Sky Altar while this mid-fight was happening, but the Desert Altar was taken in response by that small sneaky covert ops team that we saw from 27 WP. But all things considered, for first arc control, they didn't actually lose all that much.
Yeah, I think you are seeing here saying, hey, let's just like focus on the buildings, because again, that murder ball was definitely very much in the favor of 732A. So I think resources definitely being put out onto the field for 27WP in a potential building response here. So now it's going to come the question, is 732A going to look to cache these arcs? Are they going to hold? Are they going to switch the focus onto playing a little bit more on the buildings? So now, like, as you kind of alluded to, when getting that control of the first arc, you really do kind of start to maintain a lot of control and the tempo of the match. So it's going to be very interesting to see how we progress here in this match here.
And you could see the rotation coming in from 732A. They're protecting the arc in one way because this is a murder ball that is in front of the arc, but also they're taking back the desert altar that was taken from them, stabilizing their structures. They are down by 2.5, which, you know, is because primarily because of this desert altar flip. But with this altar about to fall, the points will start stabilizing. They should have about a 500 point lead with the 3k points that is given through this arc. But this arc, even though there are a couple marches around, it's not actually too many marches, and you can see that there are some 27WP marches that are approaching. Do they see these marches? They do not. There is still dust up, so their vision is a bit blurred here.
Not
27WP,
totally safe there.
I believe they have full vision of this arc as well with the sentry. It's not a safe pull by any means, and this arc is actually behind the murder ball that's defending it right now.
And as we were... Go ahead.
The arc carry is getting swarmed down here. Dirty Dan, do you think this arc could actually be stolen, or do you think this is just, you know, a potential play to delay the arc from 27WP?
I think it's a delay. I think even though the murder ball was kind of out and pushed out a little extended on that desert altar, I think it's still going to be safe here just because of the refresh time for 732A. It's just going to prove to be a little bit too much for 27WP. And while we were kind of keying in on that, there was hard push used by 732A, which kind of alludes to maybe a little bit more of an aggressive play on the building. So I think we might see a hold from 732A here as they look to get a little aggressive on the building game, and then also to kind of make up some of those skill points that they've just used as well.
They're probably going to hold because hard push, I feel like 732A is the only team that we've seen in the Grand Prix use this skill. It increases the march speed as well as the damage of rallies, so it should help a lot of these structures fall. We could see that the desert altar was already taken. It was traded with the sky altar, but this hard push skill will allow 732A a better opportunity to retake the sky altar and continue to flip structures. That's all they really want to do, in all honesty. They don't necessarily need to hold the structures. They just want to flip them to increase their lead that they have. Again, they have a 3k arc, so this is about 8.3k to 8k, so up by about 300 points right now. But what 27WP is doing is like, hey, okay, you have faster rallies, we're just gonna swarm them down and focus down those rallies so that you cannot take back our structures.
Yeah, very much as they need to as well, to try and eliminate any threat from those garrisons being inside those rallies as well.
What do you think of hard push as a skill? Like, it's not meta. We don't see all of the teams use it, but 732A was successful against 60GT with it. Oh, by the way, they just flipped an empty desert altar. That's
I mean, it's not something you see in top tier play.
It's a couple seconds, but you know, we've seen those seconds actually mean the world in a game. But yeah, what do you think of hard push as a skill?
I mean, I can kind of see where it comes into play last week against a team in 60GT, where 60GT is really known for kind of like their mid presence and their ability to fight and target on the field, and kind of like maybe lacking in the building game a little bit. So I can definitely see why it would make sense against a team like that. Now, going up against a team like 27WP, where you know, maybe and who knows, right? You have to do kind of your scouting on it, but might be a little bit better on the building game than them. It just it makes me question whether or not you can bring a better skill to the fold. Like even a skill like Desert Storm that we've been seeing used so much in response to sneaky tactics plays. So very interesting decision to take hard push, and we'll have to see if it pays off like it did last week again on that upset against 60 GT.
I will say they took hard push, but it looks like their opponents took it because they currently have 4 altars to none. My goodness.
And that's where
27 WP's building game is looking absolutely strong. And what do you think, Dirty Dan?
That's where you can kind of see the value of having the hard push, because okay, yes, now it's kind of like you're not using it so much of in an offensive way, but you're using it in an offensive defensive way because you want to go back and get your home structures back a little bit more quickly. So it does kind of prove its value and its worth there. But yeah, 27WP is doing a great job on these structures right now and really kind of taking a page from the Chinese server teams, and we saw that first mid arc fight where they didn't bring as many resources to that mid fight and really kind of trying to focus a little bit more on buildings, and they're really keeping that pressure on 732A and maybe throwing off the timings of them of their marchers and players a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, this is 4 altars, now 3 is absolutely huge for them. Sky Altar looks like it's actually going to flip as well, so 732A doing exactly what they need to do. They were down by those 4 altars, which is why the points, even with the arc, they are down by about 200 points. So 27WP, I mean, I was told that there are a lot of players from the current Grand Prix champions 489, the 489 team, you know, not being fully Korean this time. It's mostly international. A lot of the Korean players ended up going to 27WP with a lot of 1365 players. There's a good mix of kingdoms, mostly being Korean players. They definitely have a lot of coordination and a lot of planning. As you know, we've seen that even without having that mid control, they've had control of the structures, which is something we haven't been seeing in the Grand Prix. The structures in this Grand Prix have been pretty much untouchable, to the point where people are so comfortable defending structures, they just send 20 provisioners out so that they could get points that way.
Yeah. Yep. And speaking of provisioners too, Plato, 732A with a very nice number of provisioners out on the field for them right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, around 8 to 9 provisioners on the field, whereas 27WP only has about 2 dedicated. I think maybe 3 you can count. So this might be another match where it comes down to those provisions yet again.
I mean, if we go off what we saw last match in 93T versus 466S, the Chinese server team here, which is 732A, will probably hold this arc, make it a 2-arc game, and just try to win off provisioning difference with the arc difference compared to, and just try to hold their structures. I mean, they are up by about 3 altars right now.
And this is where it's like you got to do your scouting. Like even in the last match that I casted, 748W had no idea, or didn't even make an attempt to counteract the provisioning prowess. In GY16, one of those Chinese server teams, along with 732A, that put up almost 7,000 points. And I make a callback to our Osiris League where we see one EE8, who's probably the best provisioning team, I would say. They put up like 5,000 points, and we're like, oh my gosh, like 5,000 points. These teams are putting up 6,000 plus points, 7,000 points. You have to know in your scouting that that's on the table for them, and you have to do something to counteract that. So if this is a second match in a row that I personally watched today, that a team loses by provisions and handily by provisions, shame on them.
I mean, this is the Chinese versus international server play that we were talking about, a clash of styles. The last bastion of hope from the international server, 27WP. I mean, they are currently in the driver's seat by about 600 points, but with the provisioners, with the arc in hand, 732A are pretty comfortable with where they're at.
Yes, yeah, and I think it almost kind of creates this sense of false hope for 27WP, right? Like they say, oh, we're doing pretty good on these buildings. We're kind of flipping them back and forth. Although the map is turning quite blue right now, but doing a good job in those first kind of opening minutes. But now kind of, again, creating that false sense of hope as 732A is really kind of starting to kind of hunker down and kind of get back into their timings and their pacings of the structure game now.
Yeah, they're sacrificing some of their buildings so that they can secure the provisions. It's pretty curious, though, that they put out this many provisions this early. I'm guessing they're just doing this as they hold the arc. When the arc is captured, they'll probably submit some of the provisions.
Pull some more in, yeah, that makes sense.
Go mid. Because yeah, I mean, with the March disadvantage, they are winning the structure game as of now. It's been a pendulum going back and forth. 3 altars going one way, 3 altars going the other way. But the fact that it's been going back and forth is a huge win for 732A because they are the ones provisioning more.
Yep, that's exactly what they need to do. And again, that false hope, like 27WP really needs to kind of keep this as at a 3 altar to 1 pacing for the entirety of this match, but they don't know that. We don't think that they know that, although they should know that because 732A provisioned 7,000 points last week.
Yeah, I mean, the provision has not come in as of yet, but once the mid fights start coming through, I actually think the provisioning marches are probably going to keep provisioning until like 4 minutes before arc spawns. They'll submit the provisions, then go mid with the marches. It's going to be a huge point gap, and that's when a huge point jump rather, and the 27WP, that's when they'll know, oh wait, we're actually down right now. They seem pretty comfortable with where they're at, but they should be, kind of not scrambling, but kind of aware that the provisioning monster is to come.
Yeah, and then it's almost like you realize it too late, right? Like I think I kind of noticed that with 748W in the last match, and I think once they started to see some of those provisioners coming in, you can kind of tell by some of the way that they're moving and trying to get a little bit more aggressive on those buildings in the last couple of minutes, that they kind of realized that it was the end. It was the beginning of the end for them once they started seeing those provision scores come in. And that's the fun thing about provisions too. You don't know it until it's too late.
It'll be interesting to see how they counteract the provision play. I mean, I guess one way would be to win the second arc. This whole strategy for 732A kind of depends on them winning a second arc.
Yes, absolutely.
As they capture this arc, they will be up by about 200 points. But if they lose the second arc, then 27WP will be in a pretty comfortable position themselves.
Yeah.
What do you think we'll see? What do you think we'll see the second arc? Like, how will both these teams react to the second arc spawn?
I mean, so this honestly, Plato, this looks very similar to the match that I just casted solo. Like, it's very much kind of building structure game, flipping back and forth. One team kind of slightly out ahead on occupation score, but 732A kind of chipping away at that occupation score. It did come down to that mid arc fight too, that second arc that you were kind of just talking about for this match, that is going to be the key, right? That's kind of the key to this provisioning tactic in a way. And yes, we did see in the last match, just mirrored to the deaths, a little bit of a difference in skill usage with sneaky tactics as opposed to bogged down. It really just comes down to the microing, like who's going to be targeting better, especially when it comes down to these mid arc fights. And also too, I guess you can't underestimate like the amount of marches that people are sending into these mid arc fights, because it's been all over the place, right? We see in the international servers pretty much all in calls for all arcs, but now with the way that things have just been so shuffled, like you're allocating 10% of your resources going into buildings, or setting into middle. So it's going to be really interesting to see how many troops go middle and how many will stay diligent on the building game, as it looks like the Arc actually has just scored. So yeah,
The
next Arc coming
was
up soon.
captured. 300 points differentiating these two teams. We have 13.1 for 732A versus 12.7 for 27WP. That is without the provisioners coming back, which we expect that they should start coming back for this second mid-fight. The second mid-fight will mean a lot for both of these teams. I mean, whoever controls that second arc will have control of the game here, pretty much. I would definitely say it's more of a must-win for 27WP, just due to the fact that we've seen 732A with a bunch of provisioners that have not submitted yet. So once those provisioners start coming in, we'll start to see the true lead between these two teams. Although the structures have been flipping back and forth, everything is now pretty much dead even, except for the Shrine of Life on this top side, with about 7 minutes until this arc spawns. So there should be at least one more rotation of aggression on these structures.
Yeah, before we start seeing some of these calls being made mid, and 732A might even make the call too, like, hey guys, like we're doing fine on buildings right now. We're kind of flipping back and forth as we expect, and I mean, let's kind of take this and just go into mid and maybe keep the provisions, and again kind of hide that score, that provisioning score, a little bit more. So again, this is all kind of it seems all very easy as we're casting or as we're watching, but there's a lot of calls being made throughout the entirety of these matches, and that is one call that we're going to have to definitely keep an eye on if they decide to pull the provisioners or start to get a little bit more aggressive on that mid.
Man, I mean, this Sky Altar is holding strong. 732A is holding strong. It will come down to this second mid fight. It is still a 400 point lead for 732A, so not too much differentiating these two teams. In fact, if the game were to end now, they would get an achievement on their account for how close this arc game has been.
Yep, and that elusive achievement. So hard to get. I think that took me about 3 or 4 years to finally get.
Yeah, it is a tough one to get. Luckily I got it when I was in KVK1, so got lucky there.
Get it out of the way nice and quick.
As we have 5 minutes and no one's rotating mid, so you know this is different from the international server. I know back when I used to play Ark of Osiris, 5 minutes, drop whatever you're doing, sad face, go mid. But these guys continuing to aggress on the Desert Altar, continuing to attack the other Desert Altar. We see that there's a little bit of aggression towards the Shrine of Life as well. So 732A, even though they decided that this is going to be a 2-arc game, they're saying, hey, we don't actually need the second arc. We're actually going to try to attack these altars. Look at the aggression coming out from 732A going to this Sky Altar. This is a huge contingent of marches.
Yep, I was even going to use the word contingent. Plato, are you reading my mind again? 2 weeks in a row.
We've been casting too much together. That's how you know.
Yeah, I saw this coming up here, and I'm like thinking now, I'm like, oh my gosh, like they're this, and again, this is the whole like difference in server styles where, and what we think is a must-win arc. They're saying, you know what, we're gonna go for this Sky Altar and make 27WP really decide what they want to do, because this will put 3 altars in hand for 732A right before this ever important mid arc fight.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge amount of marches here. Looks like the Sky Altar will fall, so that's going to be a solid flip for 732A, saying that not all our eggs are in this arc basket. Looks like none of their eggs, to be honest. There is still 3 minutes 40 seconds to go, but we have one guy middle right now. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 marches out in middle. So this is perhaps just a full building rotation from 732A, and perhaps they're so confident in their provisions that, hey, we don't even need to rotate for mid because we got so many provisioners out there in the open field right now.
Yeah, it looks like it. It looks like, and again, if you can gather 7,000 points, I mean, you're almost doing two arcs worth of points there. It's like you might as well just do it. And 732A really kind of putting that on is they're going to look to have 4 altars in hand, and just wasting the time of 27WP. As I think they are starting to realize that there is no mid arc call from 732A and starting to now divert resources back to their structures.
Yeah, this play really depends. The play of 732A to go structures really depends on how fast or how long rather they could hold onto these structures. If they're able to hold onto these for quite some time, it will definitely be worth a second arc. If they're able to steal the second arc from under 27WP's marches,
yeah, and
it will also be
in play
worth
too.
it.
Yeah, they could do they could do all the above, right? They can continue to provision, they can take 4 altars and flip the points that way, and then there's also a potential master strategist play here. If 27WP gets a little bit too relaxed with the arc as it spawns and leaves no protection around it. So 732A definitely potential to pull off all the above here. I got to ask a question. Since you casted last Grand Prix, and I tune in here and there, but this being a first time caster, like really seeing in-depth dive on these tactics, like is this unlike anything you've ever seen? I think this is a Grand Prix that no one's ever seen before with all these differences in tactics.
Yeah, I mean, last season there were some interesting out of the box tactics coming from the Chinese server, but the international server meta really kind of overshadowed that. Now, with the amount of practice that the Chinese server has put in, they look a lot more polished. I mean, this is the last team of the international server in the upper bracket, 27WP. Yeah. So I think that speaks more to anything.
Yeah,
that the Chinese server is this time have come to play, and there's so much variation, and I think it's because there's been another year for teams and players to get used to the fog of war, to get used to the new skills.
Yeah,
and because of that, there's a lot more variation. It's like the more teams get more practice with the current state of the game, the more variations there will be in. And I think the Chinese server have a creative way of thinking about Ark of Osiris, and that's how they've been successful thus far.
Yeah. Great call there. Yeah, that does make sense that it's a whole year of getting used to fog of war and getting used to the skills, and I think that's the perfect word too. There's so much variation in this Grand Prix that we're just not used to seeing from the international server. We're used to kind of almost being cookie cutter, and it's so refreshing to see all these new tactics at play from all the Chinese server teams. And also it's interesting to see too how international teams are going to be adapting to it.
As we see Desert Altar is starting to get swarmed down, it still looks like with 3 seconds to go for this arc spawn. I mean, it looks, oh my, if 732A is able to get a pull, imagine 732A get a pull and then they master strategies the arc carry out. But no, they were able to, they being 27WP, able to get the pull out of this mid area. Looks very, very safe for them. They were able to take back their altars. In fact, the Sky Altar has already started generating points. They were down by about 400 points. Now they're down by about 1.9. So 1.8k made out of that play. But now they're able to get a 3.5k arc. So in all honesty, this is looking like a pretty decent play from 27WP. And they're able to take advantage and take back their structures pretty fast here.
Yeah, great response by them, and it kind of attributed to the strategy that they've been playing too, although kind of committing a lot of resources to mid, a lot of attention on the building game, as we're getting some teleports down there on the obelisk. Holy cow.
Interesting. Okay, well, they have 2 teleports onto this bottom side obelisk. I mean, if this was Osiris League, perhaps there would be some plays there. If they were like 1 billion power whales that could swarm down cities, but every city in this game, every account in this game is the same. They have the same amount of troops, same commanders, same gear, same armament. So I don't think they'll be swarming down the 400 million power cities that are around them.
Yes, I think it's
but
safe to say
they
that.
can be pretty annoying, taking these obelisks, perhaps disrupting gatherers, perhaps. So there's a lot of things that they can do I like the fact that they didn't over-index in the teleports. It's not going to take away from their defense too much, but they can be a little bit of a pest, a little mosquito in the back of 27WP's bottom lane.
Yeah, I think there's 2 players still left in 3 players left still in 27WP's home area, and I think with those 2 teleports, I think it's going to allow only one of those players to come onto the bottom side and force the other 2 to go up top. So again, kind of maybe throwing a little bit of a wrinkle there for 27WP and a couple players having to adjust on the fly.
I will say this: where is this arc carrier? This arc carrier just went straight to capture. They're not holding this at all. They're gonna make this a 3 arc game.
I think that also comes from a little bit of the pressure from those 2 players that just kind of poured it in and were streaking towards the arc carrier.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they pathed that way to begin with, just so close to the outpost. But I think that they would have pathed in between the Shrine of War and Outpost of Seth if they were planning to hold. I feel like they're planning to capture this whole time. Perhaps seeing that, hey, you know, they use sneaky tactics in that last mid fight, we might have a point advantage. We should, you know, they're provisioning. This is their counterplay to the provisions. They know that there's provisioners out there. So we're saying, hey, provision is going to be worth less because there's going to be more arcs, but they're banking that they could win this 3rd arc.
Yeah, that is the counterplay to this this kind of new building and provisioning tactic that we're seeing here. And I think if I'm thinking back to the last match that I just casted, I think that was probably the fault of 748W. Don't quote me on that, but I think that they didn't cash. Oh no, I think they lost the 2nd arc, which is why they didn't have the attempts to do that anyway. But yeah, good play here and kind of keeping that hope alive a little bit by 27WP.
Yeah, just keeping the arc active, making sure. You know what's funny? We had this 3 arc meta that the international server would play, or this 3 arc meta rather that the international server would play. The Chinese server's counter to that is 2 arcs, provisions, and just hold your structures, win off provisions. What's the counter to that? To go back to the degenerate, capture the arc like you're brand new to Ark of Osiris, just capture this thing as fast as possible. We're going full circle. This is like
Yep.
me get arc, me capture arc vibes right now.
I love it. Again, this is what you love to see in these Grand Prix, and great like adjusting on the fly. And then also kind of like one thing that I always like to key on is who's doing their homework. So 27WP definitely has to know that there's that provisioner at play, and thank God, because again, anyone who provisions 7,000 points, you got to know that they're gonna try and probably do it again.
Yeah, I mean, I love that we're going back to you can just capture the arc, and that's a strategy now. Before you'd say that's trolling because you fight so much for that opportunity, for that control, and then you're just giving it away for more variance. 27WP is saying, hey, we need that variance because right now, if we hold the arc, we're doing what 732A want us to do.
Yep.
That we're playing into the strategy, so we're gonna do the opposite. We're just gonna capture this arc. We're just gonna smash it mid again, and we should have a point advantage.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see too, and kind of like 732A hasn't really gone for these mid fights, so it's gonna show like how good are they in mid. Like maybe they aren't the greatest mid fighting team, and maybe we'll see that on display. But I think whereas we haven't seen 732A really at all in these mid fights, they obviously have to go for this last one here. So it will be nice to see our first true mid arc fight of this match, and we're talking about that 50 minutes into the match.
Yeah, I mean, it is looking rather interesting right now. It's pretty much a tied game, 100 points differentiating these two teams. 27WP's hoping and banking on that final arc to push them through the finish line. 732A's banking on the provisioners that they've had The provisioners are pretty much even, by the way. 933 to 993 in the provisioning score. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 provisioners out there for 732A, and these provisioners have been out there since the beginning of the match. So they are definitely going to have a ton of provisioning available.
I think
My
the
question
one
is,
thing,
will that be enough for 27WP to capture the arc? Do you think there's 4K in provisions from
I would
732A in the bank right now? Maybe that's why they're so comfortable with just going for these buildings and sacking that third arc.
I think there should be. Last match was about 9 provisioners I saw in total the entire match, and they still got up to 6,000. So I would say at very minimum, there's 5,000 points on the board for provisions for 732A.
Wow. I mean, that is a ton of points just out in the map. I will say they are rotating mid, so they're not putting this to chance. They are going to try to contest.
Yeah. And I
There
think
are 3 skills from 27WP though that have not been shown. 2 skills from 732A. And as you said, this is going to be the first real mid fight of this game. Who will be able to take advantage? 30 Dan, what do you think will happen this mid fight?
I think it's hard to say because we haven't seen 732A really, and we've seen just so much kind of even play when it comes to structures. I will say this though, all 732A has to do is delay. They just have to pretty much delay the arc from being scored at all, and then they'll get out of this thing pretty much, right? So 27WP needs to score the arc, and 732A just needs to just simply deny it. And even if 27WP cashes arc, it kind of, as we're talking about just before, like it still might not even be enough. So we'll see, but they do have to get this arc. So I would expect probably some to the deaths being used here.
Yeah, this is going to be a crazy mid fight, man. We have 1 minute 55 seconds to go until this spawns.
Just want to call out too on the by the bottom side desert altar, a pretty nice little gathering of troops from 732A, disrupting the mid presence, the mid push for 27WP.
Yeah, this
so
is
good,
a huge amount of
good little play there. Yeah,
being very annoying to 27WP. Sneaky tactics used by 732A yet again in this middle fight. Pretty interesting use of skills. Of course, it gives an extra attack. Perhaps it also makes it so that, you know, your opponents can't target properly because half of the murder ball is under stealth. There might be something like that as well.
Or even maybe a push into the back lines a little bit more, maybe trying to just create some chaos. Again, the main thing for 732A here is just delay. That's really all they have to do. Whereas 27WP on the other hand needs to score.
Yeah, I mean, this is gonna be, honestly, if you're 27WP, you wouldn't mind a 4th arc. Like that's how the game's looking like right now, because they're down by 700 points. They know that there's a lot of provisions coming in from 732A. So 27WP is saying, oh my, what do we do? We have to win this mid fight. Perhaps they could try to insta capture. As the mid fight starts, we have to the death used by 732A as well. And we have Heaven's Grace Bog Down Dust Up in response from 27WP. And this is the question that Brian was talking about earlier. To the death doesn't necessarily mean you win the mid fight. If you have the right amount of skills for your opponent, you have Heaven's Grace Dust Up Bog Down. So that is going to be so interesting if To the Death could carry 732A to this mid fight victory. By the way, the arc has spawned. There is a arc carrier pulling it away, and it looks uncontested. It's super healthy right now. This Belisarius Prime running for its life. 27WP getting a clean pull. How is the mid fight looking? It looks pretty even as well.
So even. I can't tell who's making it out of this one right now. Oh my goodness.
This is looking insane sad face trains coming out from both teams. 27WP with yet another arc pull. I would definitely say they're a little bit favored in this arc fight because they were able to pull it towards their side. And it does look like they have more numbers in this mid fight as well.
27WP starting to clear the field a little bit more so now, starting to become a little bit more red. But they cannot waste any time, as you're alluding to. I think they really kind of need this to get close to like a fourth arc, to kind of ensure that victory, because right now it's still up in the air. We don't know if even scoring this arc is going to be enough points, just because of how many provisioners are on the table for 732A. And I would guess, with the way that the skill usage has been used, that there is master strategist on the board for 27WP.
The only thing is, this March to walk to the closest structure to capture is going to be a minute 20 for the and this is just a double C standing right next to it, wishing that I was carrying that arc. They can't force a fourth arc because they can't capture this in time.
Not enough.
There's
time,
no way they
right.
could capture. There's no way they could capture this in time, because you need at least 8 minutes for that arc to spawn. Plus you need 10 seconds to capture the arc. Plus you need another couple seconds to master strategist out. So this will be the final arc of the game. They are getting lower and lower in terms of their point differential. They're down by about like 1.6k right now, or 1.5k. So
and a pretty big point differential and points per minute right now too in favor of 732A. So
able to take that desert altar while all of that was happening. So 732A, even though they lost that mid fight, they were busy elsewhere in the map, making sure that they had some form of advantages, not going all in per se. They still brought a lot of marches, but they were able to get an objective on the side, and this has been generating points for them for quite some time now. Our carrier has been
dropped.
Looks like it won't matter.
Yeah, should be okay.
I think they'll probably just capture this arc. There's no threat of a fourth arc. So this is going to be the point differential, and we'll have to see the points climb through provisions. We could see, let's see the provisioners. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 double-digit provisioners from 732A, and you can only see about 3 perhaps from 27WP. So that might be a big factor going into this game. And Dan, I hate to say this, there are 4 altars to 732A's side as well. So they're going to be winning in the points per minute. They should be winning the provisions. If you're 27WP, you have to do something here, because you're going to be bleeding points.
Yeah, and bleeding points bad. And we saw it just last week in the same match with 732A of how big a 4 altar swing can generate points for you. It's a massive difference.
Yeah, this 4 altar swing. It is now a 3. Should be a 2, as this desert altar will get swarmed down. But even flipping the altars is absolutely huge for 732A. They just want to deny as many points from 27WP as possible. Like if 732A do not generate any points for the rest of the game, but they could make 27WP not generate any points as well, they'd be happy with that because of the amount of provisioners that they have. And look at this lead just continue to dwindle. It was about a 2, maybe 2.5k lead. Now it is down to 1.7. They were able to retake the desert altars, but they are still not generating points from them. This desert altar on the top side is also under attack with a Herman Prime garrison. There you go. We got the Eleanor in there at least. But Dirty Dan, this is gonna go down to provisions, isn't it?
This is definitely going to go down to provisions. And I was trying to like just think in my head too of like why we're seeing a lot more of an emphasis on some of these teams with provisioning. And I think it's got to play into the Grand Prix setup, I think, right? Because everyone has the same armaments, the same gear and all that. So I think with that being such a level playing field, you can say, hey, let's allocate the 1 or 2 players to dedicate to straight up farm, since there's not that much of like the variance in terms of like skills, inscriptions, and everything that's on the board, right? Like, I don't think that those extra players are going to make that much of a difference. Whereas in a regular match where you have all of those things available to you, like, you want as many players on the field as possible because you have to combat all of the differences in the gear, the armaments, inscriptions, and all of that. So I think going forward in this Grand Prix, we're going to see a little bit more emphasis on provisioning as opposed to what we see in the normal Osiris League playoffs.
Yeah, this is gonna be so close. Yeah, I counted 13 provisioners from 732A. I think I counted 7 or 6 from 27WP. But you have to keep in mind a lot of those provisioners just came out, so they won't be providing too many points. And look, it's less than 1,000-point gap yet again for 732A. They're continuing to catch up. They're now both at 29,000 points. Sneaky tactics used by 27WP. Where are they using sneaky tactics? So they are using sneaky tactics to take back their own Sky Altar. It is yet another 3 altars to 1, and that 1 altar is currently getting swarmed down as well. Damn, this is looking so dire for 27WP. What can you even do?
I don't think there's much to do. I think they're doing all the right steps, and it's gonna hit them soon. It's obviously for us and for chat and anyone else watching, like, they know what 732 has on the board, but like for them in this, honestly, like I said about 20-30 minutes ago, this is very similar to what I just watched with the GY16 and 748W. It's almost a mirrored match in a way, except there was just an extra arc, but it just coming down to the wire and just coming down to provisions. And 27WP in the next minute or so is going to start to see those points really start to pour in from provisions, and again, that's when they just know that it's too little too late. But they are taking the appropriate steps that they need.
It's 520 points per minute to 50. 520 points per minute to 50. There's 1 outpost and 1 obelisk generating points for them. That is it. And honestly, even without the provisions, you could say that 732A might actually come back even without the provisioning demon that we've been alluding to this whole match. This is a weird call, but I kind of just want to look at the obelisks here, see the provisioners come in. But we're going to go ahead and look at the Desert Altar attack, the Desert Altars, and we'll look at the points as they start coming through. It is still only 1.1 to 1.4. We have 1 minute 50 seconds left into this match. It is now down to a 300-point match, and it's still 670 points per minute to 80 points per minute.
Yeah, they are definitely starting to recall some of those farmers now. And I think this is where 27WP starts to feel that pit in their stomach, like, oh, we just didn't have quite enough.
It is down to 100 points. 100 points, Dirty Dan. Oh my goodness. The last bastion of the international server. We're going the same route here. The last team in the upper bracket of the international server. Now down by 200 points. And that's not even with the provisioners coming in. Wow. Let's see. Provisioner come in.
Here they come.
They are storming back with 42 seconds left into this game. Provisioners now coming through. I mean, they're only up by 200 points, not gonna lie. The main provisioners probably did not come in as of yet. But
They're
those
saving.
200 points is all you need. Oh, oh my goodness. There you go.
Oh my gosh.
Just 3 marches probably coming in with 1k each. What
so
an
brutal.
explosion of provisions.
Again, they're gonna get up to almost 7,000 points again in consecutive weeks. This is, I said it before, and this is shame on 27WP and also 748W for not keying in on the provisioning prowess that these last 2 teams had. GG's.
Look at Centurion being the MVP commander, coming from 27WP, but 6.9k provisions, being the main difference between these two teams. GG's to both of them. 37.2k for 732A, 31.4k to 27WP. Huge shout out to both of them. They both came to play, but at the end of the day, the provisions and occupation proved to be too much for 27WP. Gary Dan, do you have any final notes about this match?
About this match, I mean, man, just again, the variance that we're seeing within this Grand Prix has been amazing. Huge shout out to all the Chinese server teams who are in the upper bracket, sending all of the international teams to the lower bracket now. Tomorrow, as we get into the lower bracket matches for the second week, is going to be very interesting to see who starts to go home. And guys, definitely tune in tomorrow as Plato and Redline cast that ever famous 60 GT and 489 matchup in that lower bracket to see who goes home.
Yeah, I mean, people were asking when 60 GT playing. They're playing tomorrow. It'll be Redline and I casting 60 GT versus 489, and also the other lower bracket teams. Be sure to subscribe to this channel for more Ark of Osiris Grand Prix content. And if you like the cast, we have Brian Koo, Dirty Dan, and I's channels in the description as well. We'll catch you guys next time. Peace.